Port Melbourne, standing tall, standing strong, and standing alone. A proud history coursing through its red and blue veins. A history forged in battle in that famous jumper. Playing under the inspirational and uncompromising tutelage of John Baird, the troops are steeling themselves, ready for the fight.
You don't want Williamstown dictating what they're doing. We spoke about that 6 weeks ago. It is us that's dictating what we need to do.
3 grand finals in 5 years. The Borough know what it takes to win on footy's biggest battleground. Port's mission now to go back-to-back. Ayres calling it the crown of glory. Their opponent, a professional powerhouse, led by experience, injected with youth, speed and skill. After a hard-fought final series, Geelong has been tested and toughened, ready to triumph. Winning flags in 02 and 07, the 5-year lure beckons.
You've been outstanding to this point, but that is gone now. We need 30 minutes of energy and enthusiasm and conversation and communication. We must talk to each other.
Can the Cats prevail and deliver Matthew Knights a premiership in his first year? Or will the Borough mount another successful campaign and stand alone with the silverware? The battle lines have been drawn. This will be unforgiving. It's Port Melbourne versus Geelong. This is the 2012 VFL Grand Final. It is a big day in the footballing lives of 46 young men and 2 experienced coaches. The Cats looking to add more silverware to their already bulging trophy cabinet at Cardinia Park. And for Port Melbourne, the lure of a 17th flag and the 5th time a back-to-back premiership. It is the VFL Grand Final of 2012. Hello everyone and welcome to the Dockland Stadium. David Rees-Jones. After a long season, we've got the 2 teams that we wanted in the big one.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a great season of VFL football once again, and the 2 teams obviously the reigning premiers and going for back-to-back, and a young up-and-coming side in Geelong. They've been exciting this year and really good to watch.
Nervous moments for these young men before the game. You've been there and done it. Nerves before a big game are a good thing, but you don't want to get overexcited about it.
No, that's it. You really need to harness your emotions because they can get on top of you, and you can get out there and be a little bit too enthusiastic and do the wrong things. You just need to trust in what you've been able to achieve during the year, and it'll all just work.
Well, the teams know each other pretty well because they played just a few weeks ago in the qualifying final at Port Melbourne. It looked for all the world as though David Wojcinski and his men were going to be able to run over the top of Port Melbourne when they got 4 goals early in the last quarter, but somehow Port, when their backs are to the wall, they're at their best.
Yeah, and look, this was probably one of the matches of the year, or probably the match of the year so far, so let's hope they can repeat it today. But Port Melbourne, you've got to give them credit. They have a great belief in themselves and in each other, and Gary Ayres really instills that into his team.
Well, it is of course a vastly different prospect on a vastly different ground, and standing in the middle of that ground is a man who is very passionate about this competition. Phil Cleary, as we say good afternoon to you. Your thoughts on the grand final of 2012?
Who'd have thought it would be a 5-time AFL Premiership champion, Gary Ayres, who would take Port Melbourne to its first premiership in 29 years. Now Gary Ayres dreams of coaching greatness and back-to-back flags with his standalone Port Melbourne. And how fitting that the man who stands between him and such greatness is a 279 AFL hero, Matty Knights, and his brilliant Geelong. Can the brave hearts of Port withstand the speed and skill of this irresistible Geelong side? This will be a game to remember.
You can almost feel his passion even from the middle of the ground, and Port Melbourne about to make their way out there now. The reigning premiers from last year, they won 15 games this year, and as they make their way through their banner, they beat Willie by 34 points in the second preliminary final, 11 and 11 from home. But as we say, Reece, it is a different equation on a bigger ground here.
Yeah, it certainly is, and this is going to test them. It's going to test their fitness and their speed, and that's where I think the weaknesses may show in Port Melbourne.
Some of the men to watch, well, Sam Dwyer is so important to this team, but he's out there under duress. He is in fact playing with a broken leg, and it went right down to the last minute to see whether he was going to play or not.
Yeah, look, he's playing with a broken bone in his leg, which shows a great amount of courage, but it also shows how important he is to this Port Melbourne team. He adds pace and skill. He's a terrific footballer.
And what about the other Sam? This man, Sam Fleming, so important to the Port Melbourne team. He really generates the drive from the back line.
He certainly does, and Gary Ayres surprised us last week, starting him off at centre-half forward, and it wasn't until he got back into defence that Port Melbourne looked structurally a lot better.
Speaking of Gary Ayres, Phil Cleary had the chance to speak to the Port Melbourne coach just a few moments ago.
Gary, you've been back-to-back at the top end in the AFL as a player. Now the chance to go back-to-back as a coach. What's the difference?
Well, obviously you can only control what you can, mate. Obviously that was a physical exhibition that the guys put on that day. As a coach, you're more mental. But the guys paid the price on that day, so hopefully we'll pay the price today.
You're going with Sam Dwyer. He's been wounded. Can you get away with it?
Oh, we believe we can, mate. He's a leader of the footy club. He wouldn't say he's right if he wasn't, so we've got full confidence he can do the job.
Can you quell their speed?
Most definitely. We'll give it a go.
All the best to you.
Good on you, mate.
So then, out come the Cats. Do you think they might have a different crepe paper budget to Port Melbourne?
I think they do, and the size of budgets, the size of banners, if you go by that, Geelong's going to win very easily.
They beat Werribee by 5 points in the first preliminary final last week, but they led by 48 at the 12-minute mark of the third quarter. The last 10 minutes were a bit of a concern for the Cats last week.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shake-up for them. They nearly got rolled, and they'd done so well, for 3.5 quarters of the match that it would have been a shame if they'd have been rolled. But that might be the shake-up call they need, and they need to really use their pace and spread today.
You love to be able to call on experienced finals players. This man, the big O, Oren Stevenson, knows what it's about at this level, knows what it's about at this ground. He's been a factor in grand finals before.
Yeah, look, he played in 3 in a row with North Ballarat. But he starred in those grand finals as well. He's a very good player. He needs to give him first touch on the ball. That's first centre bounce will be crucial.
And David Wojcinski is a man who knows what it's all about at the very top level. He's tasted the air at the top of the mountain. He wears the hoops for the last time today, and he wants to bow out a winner.
Yeah, look, he's been a terrific servant for Geelong over the time. Didn't have his greatest match last week and made a few uncharacteristic errors. But if he can get running on this big ground, he'll cause some headaches out there. 203
AFL games for David Wojcinski. Let's hear from Geelong's coach, Matty Knights.
Matty, in an illustrious career, you've now got to a VFL grand final as a coach. How special is that for you?
Oh, it's a great feeling, and just to see the players work together this week to get a great reward, and they bonded really well down the club, and just the last 2 wins against Box Hill and Werribee have been just full of character, and I think we've earned the right to be here, and now we play a really good team on a big day.
You play some of the most brilliant football. You're going to come in against one of the old enemies of the competition. A big day?
Yeah, well, the 2 best defensive teams in the league are here, but both teams can play really good football on the outside as well. Port can't be underestimated, particularly with guys like Kane and Bentic and Valenti. So, you'll see some great inside football today, and no doubt you'll see some great outside football.
Do you believe this ground suits you better than that Port Melbourne ground?
In saying it, we played well at Port as well. The last 2 games, Werribee and Port Melbourne, we played quite well at Port. So I think it's pretty much even on that respect. Port's last game here was really strong. So I think both teams will be really suited to this venue. And, it's great to play it on a neutral venue.
It's the game we wanted. We wish you all the best, Matty.
Thanks, Phil. Ta.
And David Rhys-Jones, as we look at some of the Geelong players getting ready, the young Geelong players, my mind turns back a decade to the 2002 VFL Grand Final. Some of the names that played that day: Hunt, Kelly, Chapman, Ablett, Steve Johnson and Bartell. They forged a dynasty. You wonder whether these men might be starting to do that today.
Well, that's it. In 10 years' time, we might look back and look at the young kids who are playing today. And this is the future of Geelong out there today. They've got some terrific young players, and let's hope they can stand up under the pressure of a grand final and perform.
12 of those young players have actually played AFL football this year. For Port Melbourne, only Adam Bentic, Shane Valenti, Clayton Hinkley, John Baird and Wade Skipper have tasted AFL football experience.
Yeah, look, I don't think that takes anything into account. I don't worry about those sort of figures, because I think the Port Melbourne players, look, they're experienced players at this level right through. So they haven't got that as an excuse. Geelong, youthful, and a mix of experience in there as well. I think that'll hold them in good stead.
So who's winning?
I think Geelong. In a close one.
Hopefully it will be a tight one. We've already had one very tight grand final, and we'll talk more about that at half time. So the national anthem just about ready. Matthew Knights and Gary Ayres squaring off against each other. The young Cats against the standalone VFL team in Port Melbourne. Let's get down to our Master of Ceremonies, Pete Laser.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2012 Peter Jackson VFL Grand Final. Would you now please be upstanding and join players, coaches and umpires, and welcome Tim Campbell to perform the Australian National Anthem.
Of beauty rich and rare, in history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Great rendition of the national anthem by Tim Campbell. Reece, did you have a preferred way of approaching the national anthem? Did you like to stare down your opponents, or what did you do in that minute or so?
Oh, no, I don't think. You just looked across and had a look across. And, you know, some blokes would be pretty serious. I mean, I took things pretty relaxed, really, until they blew the siren, then it was on.
We talk about the fact that you need to get off to a good start in finals. Port didn't do that last year. They got off to a terrible start against Williamstown, but were able to overcome it. It's not likely, if they give away a big start today, that they're going to be able to peg Geelong back. So the first 15 minutes is really critical.
Oh, look, it is. And what you do in that first 15 minutes is really set the pattern for how you're going to go about it. And a lot of times you'll see in grand finals, the first 15 minutes, it's pretty scrappy, it's hard, it's tough, but you really do set the pattern there.
Two outstanding VFL players. John Baird, who's been in the best so many times for Port Melbourne this year, finished third in the Liston Trophy. Troy Selwood, a member of that famous family. And they are going to decide which way they will go. Doesn't really matter so much under the roof here at the Dockland Stadium. It's a bit ceremonial. And Troy Selwood has won the toss and will go to the left of screen. Let's get down to the boundary line. We've already heard from Phil Cleary, and down there with him is my co-commentator today, Darren Boyd. Boys, good afternoon to you again.
Oh, Peter, Reece, Phil, how good is it to be here? The Geelong crowd are up and about. The Port Melbourne fans are just in front of us here on the boundary. They're cheering in full voice as well, Phil. I'll tell you what, this Port Melbourne side, they look so good. They're warming up, they're experienced, they've been here before. Their third time in 5 years under the roof at Docklands for a grand final. They're not going to get rattled, Phil, I reckon. If Geelong start quickly as we think they will and try and knock them out early, they won't get rattled, the Borough.
No, they will not. Look, it's a remarkable moment in history, isn't it? When you look at what this Geelong side, you know, coming from a provincial city, you look around, there's so many Geelong supporters here, and the old Borough, the icon of the competition, trying to go back-to-back, Darren, as a standalone. For Gary Ayres, it's a stunning achievement, and you're right, they won't be rattled. They're so tough. Pinwell's so tough, but then they've got to manage Stevenson in the ruck and the big bloke Simpson. That's where they might be vulnerable.
I agree. I think that's the biggest challenge of the game. How can Dawson Simpson's impact, how can Oren Stevenson's impact be nullified by Wade's skipper? Maybe Adrian Bonadio, who we're seeing on screen, maybe he might have to spend some time in there, because the stoppages are so important. But the thing about it, people talk about the big ground maybe favouring Geelong. What about the leading forwards at Port Melbourne? Dean Galea kicked 6 here last year. He kicked 7 earlier in the year against Geelong. It could favour them too.
Well, it could, but the first point you make, the stoppages are critical, but Pinwell in there and Baird, they're critical. Yep. Valenti, if they can win the stoppages and close them up, they win the game.
So we're just about ready to get the grand final underway. Oren Stevenson has gone forward for Geelong. Dawson Simpson is going to start in the ruck. Dean Galea, we just saw, such a big part of Port's defence of the flag. The 2012 VFL grand final is underway. A big welcome to you wherever you're watching on Grandstand. Dawson Simpson gets it down. Hall Smith, the first man to get his hands on the football, who finished 5th in the Liston Trophy. And it'll be another bounce. David Harris, Sean Gleeson, Tristan Burgess, the men in charge today. Skipper down to Woofenden, who's been very important. A touch ball up in the Galea direction. Knocked away by the Geelong defence. Shannon Burns goes to the ground. Nice little tap on was by McLean. Selwood finds himself in the thick of the action, gets a little handball, moving along the boundary line. Nicely done by Simpkin in the original instance, but then he's kicked it over the boundary line on the full. Would have been a mark to Sam Fleming anyway. And interesting to see David Rees-Jones, Sam Fleming starting where he's most comfortable, down back today.
Yeah, and he's playing on Kirsten, who's on the mark there. And Geelong have gone very tall forward, so interesting the way they've set up to start the game.
Should have been a free kick to Burston there. He was held by the arm, but the umpire was on the other side. So Dawson Simpson comes in, takes the mark. Fleming going back with the flight. It went over his head. Johnston gets a little handball off. That was Mark Johnston to Fleming. Kicks long towards the wing. Galea a long way up the ground. And Gillies takes the mark on the second grab, and he was crunched by Billy Burston. Umpire showing a bit of common sense, not paying the 50 because there was a little doubt about the mark. Gillies, who's going to be so important today, delivers well to Hall Smith, who wheels and deals. Valenti left standing on the mark. Entry into the 50. Here's the big O. Got his hands to the football. It comes to the ground. The Port Melbourne defence normally reliable. Sandilands, Baird, Fleming collaborating with Penrell. The ball hung up in the air a long time. Knocked away with Stringer and Burberry in attendance for the Cats, and it'll be thrown back in at right half forward.
Mitch Brown's copped a couple early in the game, so he's on his haunches a bit, but I think he'll be okay.
Oren Stevenson getting his hands to the football early, and now it goes to ground in the ruck contest. So Skipper allowed to knock it down. Noonan took a little while. Skipper on his favoured left foot, but he's kicked it out of bounds on the full as well. And it's going to be the 203-game AFL veteran David Wojcinski playing in his last game in these famous colours today. And a round of applause going up for him from the Cats fans as well to acknowledge that contribution towards Stevenson. Johnston with his nose over the footy. Hall and Smith perhaps into the back of his opponent, nothing doing. And the umpire letting them play early, not picking out the Tiggy Touchwood free kicks. Nearly 3 minutes into the grand final.
And once again, it's a great achievement for the umpires as well, who were selected for this game. It's a terrific achievement to be known as the best over the course of the year.
Simpson palms it down. Selwood had it. Hall and Smith. Now Simpkins snapping on the left. He's got the first goal. Cats draw first blood in the grand final after 3 minutes. Simpkins had a really good year.
And as you do when you kick a goal, straight to the boundary line, but terrific snap goal there. But they've done only attacking Geelong. They've owned it. It's been inside their 50 for quite a long period so far, even though it's early in the match. And you're going to get goals. If you keep the ball down there and you get enough possessions, you're going to keep scoring. So Port need to get it down there into the ground.
Phil, some early impressions from you at ground level, in particular about the atmosphere. Seems as though a few have rolled in late.
Oh, without a doubt, Peter. The atmosphere far more passionate, I think would be the word I'd use, than last year. So many Geelong supporters and stoppages, Peter. They can't let this open up. The minute it opens up for Geelong, Port are in trouble. I thought they had them closed down a bit now, but there you see the danger.
It was magnificent football. Fell out of the middle. Dawson Simpson won the tap. Schroeder with the hand pass. Hall and Smith laid it on a platter for the leading Mitch Brown.
It really did. That's a terrific kick into space to the advantage of your teammate. And Mitch Brown, who I mentioned before, he copped a couple of knocks early on and would know he's in a match, but lined up for goal.
It would be his 35th of the season. He's Geelong's leading goal kicker all year, Mitch Brown, and he gets their second in the grand final. The Cats 2 straight. Port Melbourne yet to score 4 minutes in.
Yeah, and it's good to see him. He was in good form last week, and good to see him getting amongst it early in today's game. I mentioned early on with starting Stevenson down there alongside Walker and Mitch Brown and also Kirsten's a very tall forward line down there, but they're also mobile too. I mean, Mitch Brown's mobile, Walker's a good mobile forward as well. So, yeah, they're posing some problems down there.
We talked about the importance of Stevenson, who is standing in the goal square now, but the other big man, that man there, has been really important in the first 5 minutes of the grand final. Simpson rising above his opponent. Pinwell normally able to extract it from the middle. Selwood with a little clearing handball. Fleming takes possession and then Hogan takes him. Fleming puts it on the ground. Hogan, little scrubby kick, clears the congestion. Mitch Brown runs over the top of it. Likewise Gale. Brown goes in and fetches it. Hogan couldn't get a clean handle on it. Brown out to Selwood. He's wrapped up in a strong tackle. It's a tough ball to win. Little skirmish going on here. Important ball to win, and it's going to be a Geelong free kick. It'll go against Bentic, and Jesse Stringer will take it. Attacking edge of the centre square. Good vision, and drifting out there is George Burberry, and he's had a very good year as well, and he'll shoot for goal from about 45.
Yeah, he's one of those uncanny players, Burberry, who seems to find space, and you look up and think, how did he get that far on his own? And once again, he's you know, that elusive half-forward type.
He's the only player to play every game this year in the Geelong VFL team. 21 games, 18 goals, and we know he's a sharpshooter. What a start this would be for the Cats to get 3 on the board after barely more than 6 minutes. Burberry from 48 metres, and it just hangs out to the right and crosses the line for a minor score. First blemish, but it's all Geelong at the moment. The inside 50s, 6-zip in favour of the Cats.
Now, if they can move it quickly, Port Melbourne, they've got 2 players all alone inside their attacking 50. So it would be risky, but if they try and get it forward with some pace, they'll have an opportunity. They're still there, Sam Dwyer and Josh Scipione, so they link up from half-back. Brewer's kick isn't great. It's really high, and Wojcinski just camps underneath it, takes the mark. Now, he can square it up if he wants. He had Erdley across half-back. He chose to go down the line. It was a poor choice. Kane chops it off. Now Bentic, this could really open up. He's got Skipper wide at half forward. If he chooses to go that way, he does. How's the kick? It's not bad. Leading player is on. Skipper goes a bit further looking for Galea. He had a couple against him. Wojcinski dropped the mark. Gillies fumbled it. Scipione snaps into the post. More promising build-up from Port and Reece. I love the fact they took it on.
Yeah, they did, and the switch of play was what really opened it up for him there. Wade Skipper able to find some space.
Sheringham had a choice of 2, chose Gillies over Erdley, and Gillies decides to use Erdley. Did some great things in the dying stages last week, Erdley. Gets it off to Shannon Burns. He looks for Burberry. Williams going back with a fly to the footy. Nicely done by Burberry. Keeps it in and then tries to put it to the dangerous area in the corridor. Cats all over the place. Walker to Hall and Smith on the left foot. Hogan in the goal square. And that's shades of Heath Shaw and Nick Riewoldt in the grand final a couple of years ago. That was a certain goal to Hogan, but he decided to play on, and all of a sudden they've been able to come up with a smother, and it was old Father Time and Johnny Baird who came up with the heroics.
32 years of age, playing the best footy of his career. He has been an AFL player, Baird. He's been a champion at the VFL level. And in 2001, he was best on ground on this very stage in the VFL Grand Final. Burston needed to have his hands out to take that mark in front of his face. He ended up playing on, and it was a strong body that got him out of trouble, as likewise there with Bentic. But he befalls the same fate. Unfortunately, he was run down by Burns. And we're going to get a ball up. It's a hot footy early.
It certainly is, and so it should be. And, you know, the pace does go up that notch in big finals, but this is a grand final. And as Hogan would be thinking about now, he should have gone back and taken that kick.
Extracting the footy, Corrigan didn't play last week. He bombs it long up forward, and Ryan Gale takes the mark and switches.
Takes it out to the city side of the ground where Chris Kane, who's been a prominent goal kicker but finds himself in defence. Scipione, good use of the body. Nudge Wojcinski underneath the football, and then they both might run out of room, and they do, as it spills out in front of plenty of the Cats fans over there. So 12 of the Port Melbourne players are here from 12 months ago. A mass exodus of players from Port Melbourne at the end of the year, but they've done such a brilliant job to get through and defend their crown. Stevenson held for a while, could have been holding the ball. Bentic, who's been important early. Little hold on Wojcinski, not likely according to the umpire. Flicked out by Dwyer, looking for Scipione. He's applying a strong tackle. Eardley goes diving in. But once again, they run out of real estate as we get down to Phil Cleary on the boundary line.
Well, you can see, Pete, it's a critical moment, isn't it, in the game. Geelong are throwing their absolute best at Port. It's one of those moments if Port just continues to hold ground. That Johnny Baird stoppie was just phenomenal in the goal square. They just got to stick one through the big sticks, though, and then the whole game opens up again for them.
A couple of players fumbling under pressure. Valenti's always clean. Hand pass to Bentic, who's been their best early. Is successful.
Yes, and right on cue, as Phil mentioned, goal just so important to just get that on the board and just settle things down. Geelong have had the majority of the play in this quarter so far, and Bentic on the end of it, he's got good skills. So once I saw him in the clear, you knew he was going to put this one through.
He's been sensational in the first 10 minutes or so, almost playing a lone hand. We'll get his early numbers from our statistician Paul Field. 4 disposals, including that goal, but his grunt in the middle of the ground has been really critical.
And wasn't here last year, Pete. He missed the best part of 12 months with an ankle problem. I think he wants this one.
They all do, and some for different reasons. Adrian Bonadio, another who wasn't there, and he threw a player out in a tackle about a couple of minutes ago. Stevenson lands very awkwardly. Dillon gets a partial clearance. Sheringham might have been held. Good evasive skills from Burns. Looks for Schroeder and finds him. He was hot. Port Melbourne's tackling's gone up a notch, and there's that man again. Bentic extracts it from the from the middle of the ground, and Sam Dwyer just getting back and getting away from Buse, takes the mark and can get Port back within a point.
Well, he wasn't on Buse then. He was all alone on his own, so I think it was when Shannon Byrne went inside that he got caught out there, but Shannon Byrne.
And not for the first time. About 5 minutes ago, I was talking about loose players in Port's 450. Sam Dwyer was one of them.
They're really rolling the dice down there, Darren, and Geelong might pay a heavy price if Port can get it in there quickly. Sam Dwyer playing under difficulties, but you wouldn't know it. He squeezed it in, and Port Melbourne's got its second goal. So the first 2 to the Cats from Simpkin and Brown. Bentic and Dwyer, 2 of the little men, get the goals for Port Melbourne. It's back to a 1-point advantage to the Cats.
Yeah, and playing down forward does mean that he is restricted a certain amount, Sam Dwyer, but he's a terrific player, and you can't leave good footballers out there all on their own on a half-forward flank. And a little bit of luck there, but I'll give full credit to Bentic that he saw his teammate out there and just got down there as quick as he could.
He's been a star early, Adam Bentic, and look at that protection on Sam Dwyer's leg. He looks like a soccer player.
Just on that subject, Phil, what about Sam Dwyer throughout the week in his preparation? What can you tell us?
They went really quietly with him all week, and then the last session, Pete, they reckon he went full tilt. Not a problem. I spoke to Gary Ayres about it. He said very comfortable with him. They all said he should play. I tell you what, the Port, you can see it's a hot footy, isn't it? It's a hot footy at the stoppages.
Terrible kick from Schroeder gives Valenti an opportunity. Caught behind is Galea. Not sure how he beat Bathy for that mark. Ryan Bathy can't believe it, but you've got to have control of the footy. And Dean Galea again looking for this man who's free inside 50. It's a free kick.
Once again, a Sam Dwyer, is it?
It is. It absolutely is.
The call came play on, and then it was awarded a free kick.
It was definitely in the back, but Sam Dwyer is such a dangerous player at the best of times. I know he's injured at the moment, but to allow him that much space down there, and that's fair enough. That's fair enough. He was cannon into.
He's been named in the VFL Team of the Year 3 times, and you'd think they've forgotten about him, including 2012. He's had a stunning year, Sam Dwyer, and he hasn't had the perfect start to this grand final. 1 goal, 1 scores a level after almost 14 minutes.
And all of a sudden, the inside 50 count obviously evening up. 8 Geelong, 5 Port Melbourne. Port having a pretty good patch here. Gilly short to Buse at the Coventry end of the Dockland Stadium. He decides to stay along the dock side. Stevenson hard to budge when he gets out to the front. Nicely done. String it to Schroeder, and now it's a foot race. There's no Jetta involved here, but Noonan at the back takes it and goes and uses his vision nicely. Gets it through the middle to Williams, who links up by hand with Gale. In turn out to the sure foot of Stephen Brewer. His left foot kick to Valenti, finding some space. Slips Shannon Burns by a couple of metres. the dual Liston Trophy winner. Valenti short to his skipper in bed, gets his hands free, moves it on to Hinkley. Hinkley to Penwell, who's hot. He gives it to Dillon, who's even hotter. Was it a push? Yes. According to the umpire, he just fell between the 2 and the 4. And Michael Dillon, perhaps a little bit lucky, takes the free kick at half forward.
Yeah, players are very aware of what's around him these days. I think he actually got a little bit of a trip there. It was an accidental trip, and that caused him to fall forward, but doesn't look good.
Every player inside Port Melbourne's attacking half of the ground, and it's no surprise that Dom Gleeson, the former Werribee skipper, chips in and takes the mark. He gets it to Wojcinski. Just watch out, Geelong fans, for number 41, Jesse Stringer. He is a talented player, one of your best last week. He's got a bit of aggro in him, already in a bit of push and shove with Mitch Woofenden after that last free. He's about to get this ball. No, it goes a bit further towards Simpson, and now Stringer takes it. He's got great skills. That time, just a little bit off target, but the bounce is okay. Got to Kirsten, high kick. Difficult for the forwards to run onto. Burberry almost pulls a hammy as he chases after that one. Gets it back to Schroeder. Assesses his options and then misses with the hand pass. It stays in play. Williams puts Burberry under pressure, and Stephen Brewer...
He wasn't under any pressure there.
At shades of 2008 when they changed the rule.
Very borderline, that one from Brewer. Just elected to step over.
One thing I've noticed, Schroeder, you know, he's 3 disposals. I think he's three of his disposals so far have been absolutely terrible, and maybe the occasion's got to him a little bit.
Turnover here from Burston. Cats have got some numbers. Erdley gets the handball off. Stringer finds Gleeson. Gleeson's got a man all by himself in Selwood, and the captain shacks the kick and should have done better at the end. So a couple of opportunities burnt by the Cats in the space of a minute. Now let's have a look at the Stephen Brewer deliberate. Was he under pressure?
No pressure.
I don't think he was.
No.
Poor decision.
And well, the thing is, he could have kept the ball in play, and that's what the rules committee and so forth are trying to do.
Terrible kick in from that man Stephen Brewer, but it might work out okay for the Borough. Bear's hand pass, well done by Woofenden. If it sticks to his hand second time around, it doesn't. Corrigan's under pressure. Port Melbourne with some work to do. Fleming hacks it clear. Well done by the veteran. Up towards the middle of the ground. Burston, strong body again, pushed into it by Gillies. Well done by the Catman. Picking it up there, Corrigan. Hand pass to Burns on his left. Chooses to hand pass instead. Kirsten goes bang, and he shanks it out on the full. 2 goals, 4 and 1 out of bounds to the Cats, 2-2 to the Borough. Geelong by 4 points.
Just some nerves starting to show, I think. I mentioned Schroeder before, and then Kirsten on that occasion. Just should have steadied a little bit, had a little bit more time than what he thought.
Burberry just gets a bit of pressure on the Brewer kick, and a chop of the arms, according to the umpire. It'll go to Hugh Sandilands at left half back. Had an interesting first half last week, but just stuck at the task and kept on pegging away. Now Chris Kane, as we said, better known as an attacker, having kicked 42 goals this year. O'Farrell's got it now for Port. Up the line he looks, and Valenti, who's got a good pair of hands for a little man, comes out and takes the mark. So they're doing it by degrees. He looked off the line. Good kick, had to be precise. Woofenden caught between a couple. This man's been a revelation for Port Melbourne. He's had a very good final series. They're prepared to hang on to the footy, not going to kick it to a contest unless they absolutely have to. And there are going to be plenty of contests in front of Wade Skipper because there's a massive humanity in front of him. And now he puts it up in the air and says jump, and Billy Burston does, but he's got the big O standing there. How many times have we seen that in finals over the years?
Including on this ground 3 years ago when he was the best player in North Ballarat's second premiership. The Cats work it out off half back, and gee, was he decked after he kicked it there.
Toby Penwell just letting him know he's around.
Wasn't much in it.
So Geelong move forward. This is Shane Kirsten, been a great goal scorer for the Cats, and he's better known as a thumping kick, and that one had a little bit too much heat on it for Burberry. It was to his advantage side, but not to his advantage, as Reece, I agree with you, not much in that with Toby Penwell's bump.
Yeah, just letting him know he's around.
It's what you'd expect from Toby Penwell. And if he didn't do that, you'd think he'd be off his game.
Mind you, when Reece says there's not much in it by his standards, anything short of manslaughter is just a flesh wound. Comes to the back. Woofenden went without it. Skipper diving in after it. Sandilands was just standing there. He's going to pay the mark. He called it early, the umpire, Tristan Burgess. And Sam Fleming takes it. What's he got now? He's got a man on very long, and that's Bonadio. If they can work it to him, they're really playing a high-risk game here, Geelong. That's the direction the kick takes, and Bonadio will jump high, and he'll take the mark and plays on quickly to Bentic. Draws the man, gives it to Johnston, back to Bentic, delivers into the pocket, just out in front of Sam Dwyer, tries to knock it on, goes to ground now, McLean keeps his feet, Dwyer keeps at the task though, then drags it in and got a high one. Difference of opinion from player and umpire, as you'd expect. Dwyer, not great into the corridor. He was looking for Kane, and Corrigan is there to avert the danger for the Cats.
Yeah, Corrigan, he just probably telegraphed that one a little bit. Burberry's good enough to slip away from the clutches of Valenti. Moves it to Bathy. Driving ball, looking for Mitch Brown. Well done by Noonan. Generally pretty good in these one-on-one contests, the Port Melbourne man. Former old Zavarians player. He's been at this club just 2 years and one of 7 Borough men who has played every game this season. Both sides playing a high-risk game. Geelong 7 turnovers, Port Melbourne 5, but high risk in slightly different ways. Port Melbourne looking to exploit the corridor when they can. Geelong playing a bit more high risk by rolling men up the ground and leaving a couple spare in Port Melbourne's attacking half. Well done by Bonadio, gets it to Baird. They've got the edge in the clearances now, you feel, Port Melbourne. Chris Kane squares it up, not sure the kick was really meant for Bentic, and now it's a tough situation for the Borough, but Bentic is having the game of his life. It's only the first quarter, but he's on world record pace at the moment. Unfortunately, Dillon's kick is poor.
And it was chopped off by Bathy, who goes to the City side. Hall and Smith is the immediate target. The ball sits obligingly for him. His handball wasn't great, gave it over the head of Corrigan, but they've got the numbers. 3-on-1. Skippy only can't do much about it, except behave like a cattle dog and try and herd Corrigan up, and he did it pretty well. And then the kick wasn't great, and Adrian Bonadio has the mark for Port Melbourne. Moves it on quickly by hand, Fleming, dangerous. Hogan read it nicely. Again, they telegraphed the kick. Mitch Brown lost it in the lights. Noonan did not. Now he's got to knock it on. They did pretty well in the end. Williams gives it across. Now Woofenden finishes up with it. Port Melbourne working out through O'Farrell. Kicks to a one-on-one contest up on the wing, and nicely done. It was Erdley who was knocking it away and was able to get it away from Miles Pitt. Phil Cleary, what we're seeing here is because of the bigger ground, we're seeing players able to get out into space a lot.
Phenomenal work by all sides to cover the spread, and the interchange, of course, to complement it. They've got to get blokes on and off so quickly because the pressure of the game on the spread, it's quite phenomenal. Played at a brilliant speed.
Jonathan Simpkins always weighing at electrifying speed. He drives it long again, going up one-handed, unable to take the mark was Walker. Again, Noonan was pretty good in the contest, but he almost mucked it up, but he's got support. Hugh Sandilands is pretty cool in a crisis. No idea why Chris Kane was called to play on. Didn't seem to take a step off his line.
Interesting role he's playing, Darren. Chris Kane down the back today.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, and it'd be rare for him to do that. Maybe more the Sam Dwyer role as the link-up man. And moved it forward pretty quickly, slipping into space as Heath O'Farrell. He's got a man-free skipper directly out from goal, 40 metres, but O'Farrell fancies himself as a goal kicker. And so he will attempt to kick the third goal. If he does manage it, Port Melbourne will be in front for the first time in the game. Heath O'Farrell from Ivanhoe in his 21st game. Looks pretty good off the boot. The occasion doesn't bother him. Port Melbourne are in front. 3 goals to 20 the Borough. Geelong 2-4-16. 23 and a half gone first quarter.
Yeah, terrific effort by Port Melbourne. Their defence is holding up so well at the moment. They've been under extreme pressure there and just so cool, calm and collected down there, as you'd expect from a Gary Ayres coach team. I just saw when he went back there, he had Skippy Yoni on him. Maybe he could have got back a bit quicker, but had confidence in himself to go back and kick the goal, and that's what you've got to do.
So it has been a settling period for Port Melbourne after Geelong's onslaught in the first 4 minutes. Port with the next 3 through Bentic, Dwyer and O'Farrell. Gary Ayres pretty content with the way things are unfolding at the moment. It is 77 disposals now to 63 in favour of Port Melbourne. They've dominated the footy in the last 10 minutes or so. Hogan goes to ground. What about that for a handball? And a good smother too. Off the boot of Hall and Smith by Brewer. They're doing the little things well. Hinkley, the former Fremantle Docker, running out into space. and then he's got plenty of time to turn. No one really attacked him. He looks for Skipper in the corridor and finds him. They've got men running in all directions. Skipper's kick, very good. And Chris Kane finding himself in more familiar territory is on his limit, so he's got a man on, and all of a sudden the Geelong defence being caught at 6s and 7s. Burston allowed too much latitude, and the goal kicker will go back and kick from 30 metres out straight in front.
And good work by Skipper just to hang around that middle area, and terrific smother there. That was Brewer, but Billy Burston, he'll go back, and he's one. We talk about exciting players. He is a very exciting young talent. He is.
We're not calling the goal kicker, the reason being he's kicked 28 goals so far this year, and this should be a soda. 30 metres out, straight in front. The goal umpire doesn't have to work, and Port have got 4 unanswered goals now, and the defending premier goes out to a 10-point lead after 25 minutes.
Yeah, this is a bit of a worry for Geelong at the moment. They had all the play early, but you'll see the tough in and under tight football that just suits Port Melbourne. They just want to have a real war, and the 1%ers, you know, the smother there we saw from Brewer, the tackling's been good from Port Melbourne, and that's just a terrific kick in there to Chris Kane, and he was able to find Billy Burston all his own, and that in itself is a worrying sign that you know, we saw Dwyer there. We even saw Dwyer there again. He was unmarked, players unmarked inside 50. It's just not on in modern football.
Kicked one of the best goals we've seen in the grand final last year, Billy Burston, to give Port Melbourne an unassailable lead late in the third quarter as they sprinted to a 56-point victory in the premiership decider over Williamstown. They, of course, knocked Williamstown out of the premiership race last week in the preliminary final. A very different Williamstown side. The same coach, Peter German, who did brilliant things, really, if we're honest, to get them that far. The way they were looking at times this year. But Port Melbourne are here again. Dillon was the third man up. Valenti shoveled it forward. Bathy, dangerous punch. Penwell's caught though. Stringer applied the tackle. Well done, Jesse Stringer. Went back and won it. Eardley's really brave, and he's great in heavy traffic. Got it to Sheringham. Now they can run. What can Jackson Sheringham do? Again, the little things Port Melbourne doing well. The smother from Skipper on that occasion. Mark Johnston looking to get it to Penwell. Bursted instead. This is a big ball you feel at the moment. And Wojcinski, calming influence down back for the Cats.
And plenty of pace as well. Gleeson got it away in the nick of time. Likewise, Burns gave it across to Selwood, to Wojcinski. He turns his man and then chips the ball inside 50. It's a bit of a nothing kick, and Noonan is back there to mop it up for Port Melbourne. This Port Melbourne back six works so cohesively. It's Sandilands out to Dwyer, who obviously forgot to apply the deodorant this morning. He's been by himself for a fair bit of the time. Penwell goes to ground. Big Ryan Bathy is there to knock it out and gets it to the boundary line.
Yeah, and the forwards, Kirsten, Walker and Mitch Brown just really need to be moving a lot more instead of... Oh, gee, that's
O'Farrell. I saw that in the middle of the ground a moment ago, bleeding profusely, so they're going to have to do a fair bit of work to get him back out there. Valenti to Baird. Captain returns the favour. Valenti looks up inside the 50. Galea had 2 to beat and falling into the hole. Nicely done by McLean. Playing that guarding role across the back. Eardley, whose hands were so slick a moment ago, to the son of a gun in Buse. Thought about the handball, runs his allotted measure, then a little basketball dribble, and finally kicks a mongrel floater there. Hard to mark these. Tell that to George Burberry. Wonderful mark from a tough kick coming in from Buse, and he'll have a shot for goal to get his first after an early opportunity.
Yeah, and once again, players with their hands in the air, you hate seeing that when, you know, Geelong are coming down the ground and the key forwards have just got their hands in the air pointing in directions. They need to be really leading hard and creating things, because it also creates a bit of space behind them as well. But Burberry, as we've mentioned before, he's a lively half forward and he's a goal-kicking half forward.
He's kicking from about the same distance, slightly better angle than he did before, and the goal umpire is not moving. The only thing moving are the 2 fingers. Up they go. Burberry gets the steadier for the Cats. Margin goes back to 4 points in favour of Port after 29 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just been some sloppy kicking really into their forward 50 with which, mate, I mean, we give credit to the Port Melbourne defence as well. They're doing a terrific job linking up down there. But one of the few times I've been able to find a teammate to mark inside 50 with the amount of possession they've had in there. And it wasn't a great kick.
Get down to Phil Cleary in just a moment to find out the latest on Heath O'Farrell, because he was bleeding profusely from that head wound. Phil, can you tell us whether they've taken him into the rooms to try and stitch him up?
Yeah, they took him straight in, Pete. Clearly they know they've got to have a good look at him. I'll find out shortly what the story is. They'll no doubt tell me exactly what's going on. It's a frenetic pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
And look, just a fantastic game of footy, really. Great VFL footy.
It was a really entertaining opening quarter, which stops just shy of 30 minutes. The Cats with the early running, Port with a really good patch in the middle of the quarter. An important late goal from Burberry. Port Melbourne leads by 4 points at quarter time. A very pleasing opening quarter in the grand final, David Rees-Jones.
Yeah, and the dominance in the centre bounces was critical to it. The big fella Simpson and also Stevenson in there, able to get their hand on the ball first. And Geelong, you know, early in the match, they were just getting those centre breaks way too easy and just pumping the ball forward. They had the ball consistently in their forward 50, and they probably didn't score as much as, but you know, to Port Melbourne's credit, they're a class act. They really do believe in each other, and they don't give up. Their back line's been terrific. Their back six has really been able to repel a lot of Geelong's forward motion, but and then they started to dominate through the midfield. Bentic, we spoke about, was fantastic and had a lot of the ball. We also see him there on the goal kickers too. All singles so far, and it's been a high-pressure game, but the other pleasing thing's been the 1%ers by Port Melbourne. They've been terrific.
And that is the first time so far in the finals that Geelong has been unable to get the early statement and win the first quarter. Interesting role for Chris Kane, mainly across half-back for him so far today.
Yeah, and you know, I think you mentioned it, a bit of what Sammy Dwyer used to do, and I think because they've got Dwyer down the forward line, they've had to push Chris Kane up the ground a bit. He's a dangerous player when he does get the ball. See Burberry there with a goal. And behind as well, he's dangerous down there. And Holland Smith, he's used the ball well. He's been one of the few players from Geelong who has used the ball very well.
And just as yet, there have been precious few occasions where David Wojcinski has been able to use the big expanses here at the Docklands to use his pace. Here's the first goal after 3 minutes by Jonathan Simpkin, who's had a very good season at VFL level and showed a bit when he went up to AFL level as well. And early on, signs were really good for the Cats.
Yeah, and Holland Smith involved in two of those too. You give the handball off, and then that was a terrific kick into Mitch Brown on that occasion.
And you talked about the importance of Dawson Simpson early on. He was really winning the ball through the middle of the ground. All of a sudden, Bentic started extracting it. Their pressure went up a notch, Port Melbourne. Look at that, four players ready to lay the tackle.
Yeah, and that's the secret to success, I suppose, at Port Melbourne. I mean, they're predictable in the way they play footy. They play it hard and tough, and they're up and in your face, and that's what got them back into the game. But Bentic, terrific use of the ball there to find Dwyer, but how Dwyer was able to be, metres on his own is amazing.
Well, what about this tactic that Geelong are obviously employing? They're pushing people up the ground, and we saw Bonadio left all by himself, able to take a mark at one stage. It really is high risk.
Well, it is high risk, and it's probably only been down to a few skill errors that it hasn't really come off a lot more. They're kicking into their inside 50 hasn't been great, and that's what's really let them down. Look, I don't even think that kick was meant for Burberry, but it ended up in his hands, and that's the main thing.
And he learnt the lesson from his behind earlier on. It was just about the last act of the first quarter. And so here are the numbers at quarter time. It's 92 disposals to Port Melbourne and 78 disposals to Geelong. Inside 50s have gone the way of the Cats, and it was an imbalance early on in the quarter. 17-12. Gary Ayres addressing the troops at quarter time. Let's get down and have a listen.
All right. You held your nerve really well. Held your nerve really, really well. They shot out of the blocks, bang, bang, but our defenders, you're defending really, really well. The cohesion together as a defensive unit has been really good. Just make sure, though, that when we're handballing, that we're actually doing it to the advantage, so that guy gets it, he rolls on, then he's actually swiveling his head to go on the 45, down the line, or hitting up to guys that are on the move. All right, so really, really well done. Your relentless efforts, 22 tackles. All right, really good. 22 tackles, really good. Just some things that we need to refine. As if we are coming back through the middle, I don't want to see 3 or 4 guys just waiting there anticipating that they are going to receive the ball. we've got to have a little bit of space there, so the guys are moving into that space, and when they're taking it primarily, do you think they should be on the move? They should be. Because what we're looking at doing is we're moving, getting the ball where we want, and then we sort of get held up for here, about that mid-zone area. We've got to try and look to roll on, because their guys are prepared to leave their opponents, and we're not hitting up. Dino, where are you, matey? Dino, you've got to hit up, mate. You've got to hit up. We spoke about that Tuesday. We spoke about that Thursday. We spoke about it Saturday. Keep hitting up, keep hitting up, keep hitting up. But also too, when we're hitting up, mate, you've got to use your vision better. Shano, the same sort of principle applies. We're getting it coming back where we need it to be, but also too, the vision is so important. We can put our hands up and say, well, if they've got guys rolling back, where are our blokes? Are we potentially just leading ourselves out of that area to receive again? Bill, on that far side, short sharp lead, don't get it, then lead sideways, all right, then roll back, and the guy with the ball then, is the onus is on him to try and sit it where you want it. But we just can't keep leading up, because all we do is lead ourselves out of the space. So we've got to make sure that we are smart in everything. Absolutely fantastic. The other thing is, how's it going with what you're doing? You got it under control? Yep. The same. Watch him around the stub, because they'll try and block you, and then he'll try and get it on the bolt, and away they go. The other thing is at the centre square, and also too, really good Sammy down there, in the centre square, we don't want to have all our guys just running forward. A couple of times we haven't been able to stick the tackle, they've rolled around in the tackle and then handballed it forward, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 and it puts our defence under pressure. So our receivers, Johnny, Toves, Shane, all right, Adam, doesn't matter, Kano, who it is, we've got to make sure we're better at that. The other thing that we might be able to do too is if one winger comes in on that 45, all right, one winger comes in on that 45, so that might just decrease their chances and then try and get it into our defensive area. So have a look at that, whether it's you, Kano. Happy with that?
Yep.
Right, you're going real well. The exit points are really working well. All right. Defenders on transition, make sure...
Great stuff from Gary Ayres at quarter time. Here's his opposite number, Matthew Knights, with Phil Cleary.
Matty, they've hit up very well coming out of your forward half, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They've hit their targets really well. I mean, it's a feature of Port's game. Their kicking, field kicking is great. A couple of times we were able to chop it off, but more often than not, they got some easy balls through the midfield.
And do you think when you went forward, you didn't quite find your targets?
Yeah, I don't think we should have probably kept the ball inside 50 a little bit better. We should have made the most of our opportunities, and we're well and truly up on the inside 50. So, but very tight games.
Tough stoppages.
Yeah, they're real tough on the inside.
Good on you.
Matthew Knights with Phil Cleary at quarter time. Cats have won 2 of 7 so far this season when they've been behind at quarter time. Port Melbourne normally very good front runners. This is the injury to Heath O'Farrell that caused all of that blood. It just goes to show they can be fairly innocuous, and he came off and had to be put back together again.
Yeah, I think he's just got the stray elbow there, and these things happen.
Second quarter in the grand final. Port Melbourne leads by 4. Dawson Simpson, such an influence in the early minutes of the game. Gets down low, so does Dylan. And the umpire, Sean Gleeson, will get it up a second time. Officiating today, along with David Harris and Tristan Burgess. They've had a good, bright opening as well. No ticky touch with free kicks. Dylan trying to clear it. Good smother by Schroeder. Handball to Burns. Burston was making life difficult for him. Baird just gets it, imposed himself and got it out to Dylan. Eardley going back with a flight, and he paid the price because Bonadio came and hit him. Eardley got straight up again. That's the way he rolls. Burston with a little handball. Dwyer in some space again to Burston, who should kick the goal, and he misses under no pressure from 20 metres. Billy Burston will be kicking himself.
Yeah, terrific play there. Both Eardley and Bonadio coming out. Just eyes for the ball. That's good, hard football.
How good was Eardley last week?
Yeah.
Brave and running back with the flight, and he was precise with his disposal. I reckon the Cats might have found a player there.
I agree. He's been really impressive.
West Australian Cam Eardley, number 37. Schroeder dives over the top of the pack, almost like a gridiron player.
Quick update from Phil Cleary on Heath O'Farrell. How is he, Phil?
I've just been in the doctor's room. It's not that pleasant watching someone have stitches put above their eye, Peter, is it? The doctor said he'll be fine. He's just carefully putting those stitches in. Be a handful of those and he will be right, but it'll take him a little while to get that sorted out, but they had to stitch it because it was bleeding too much. So you'll expect him back on P, but give it a little while.
I can't say I've ever had the pleasure of watching such a thing, but that was a brilliant hand pass from Hall and Smith. Releases Mitch Brown. His kick fades late. Reece, you spoke about George Hall and Smith at quarter time.
And he's doing the job. I think he's playing on John Baird, so he's doing a terrific job on John Baird, who's had little impact in possession-wise on the match so far. So he's a good footballer. And that was a great handball over the top.
He's a thumping kick here, Stephen Brewer, and this is no exception. Great pass for Woofenden. Gives it back to Valenti. Ahead of him is Bonadio. Wojcicki! Well, if you're going to go out in style.
He's jumped on the big man Bonadio too, so that's a good mark.
Burberry says anything you can do, I cannot quite do better. But Kirsten roves it, gives it to Shannon Burns. Kirsten again, snaps the goal. What a start for the Cats in the second quarter.
How's that for the highlight reel, that passage of play?
That's an amazing goal in the fact that, the first thing is give and block. That's the way I always thought of playing. And I was just about to be critical of... we watched a mark here by Wojcicki, and that's a good mark over a big man in Bonadio. But we watched the ball come in, and Burberry went for the mark of the day too. But the handball there from Kirsten, you think he would have put the block on Gale, but they got away with it, so that's the main thing.
He thought he was Lewis Jetta, I reckon, with the outside of the boot running in. Magnificent stuff for the Cats. They lead 4-5 to 4-3.
He's got speed, and on that occasion he had elevation. David Wojcicki takes the mark of the grand final. Kirsten kicks the goal of the grand final. Port breaks away from the middle though when their lead is challenged. Baird to the back now. Galea cops some criticism from his coach. Dwyer runs into a brick wall. Bathy is his name, and he wasn't getting past. And Ryan Bathy said, "Come on, come towards me. I'll do you," and he did.
He was just going too quick, Sammy Dwyer, and didn't have time to steady himself.
Shows a bit of composure, Ryan Bathy. Kick was long, looked for Simpson. Skipper just worried him out of it. Corrigan over the top of the football. And it's going to be Corrigan's free kick against Toby Pimmel for a hold. Toby Pimmel just having a little inquiry of the umpire. Corrigan to Hall and Smith, 5th in the Liston Trophy this year. Wide kick is good. Picks out Simpkin, the man who kicked the first goal of the grand final. Sells the dummy to Baird. Then kicks up towards half forward. Bounces off the ample chest of Walker. In goes Valenti. Woofenden did nicely. Just won the footy. Out to Mark Johnston. Bouncing ball. Will it stay in? Port have got the numbers here if it does. Dwyer, what's he got to go to? He wanted his right foot. Good effort by Wojcicki. Got a partial smother on it. Then clever by Bonadio, knocked it on. But Baird, despite the fact that he was 5 metres in the clear, couldn't do anything about it before the boundary line loomed up.
And so it's in Port Melbourne's attacking half. They're trailing by 2 points. We've had a couple of lead changes already in the grand final. The defending premiers, the standalone Port Melbourne against the professional Cats, but Valenti's as professional as they come, and he gets it to John Baird, the skipper, playing the best footy of his life, but he didn't quite have the leg from 65. Buse, beautiful pass. His father Andrew would be proud. Not sure how Stevenson dropped that mark, but it might be okay for the Cats. Sheringham gets it. Johnston tagging him, keeping him in very close attention, but he couldn't upset the flow of play from the Cats. Burberry, Burns is loose inside 50, ignores him and goes longer looking for Walker. It's a perfect kick. And the man whose grandfather played in the Cats 1963 VFL Premiership. Slightly different competition, of course.
And a slightly different end of the ground where Peter Walker used to play as well. He was one of the great fullbacks.
And that was, they were to take the ball the length of the ground on that occasion.
Josh Walker snaps. Too close.
He's a good young talent, this kid. Johnny Baird just made a poor decision going inside 50, and he had Galea up on the hit-up lead, which is what Gary Ayres was speaking about at quarter time. And he decided to go long and just made it so much easier for the Geelong defence. They were able to take it coast to coast after this.
That was the kick that Reece was talking about from John Baird. That's a very good kick through the middle. Actually, too good for Penwell. Nearly got over the head of Wojcinski. Hinkley with the handball to Kane, and then he gets in and provides the block for Kane. Well done, Clayton Hinkley. Gale's got it at halfback for Port Melbourne. Making the lead out for him. Nicely done by Miles Pitt. Played with such a heavy heart last week after the death of his cousin John McCarthy. A big fly at halfback came from Schroeder. Knocked on. Cats are able to get it away now. It was Simpkin who got it going forward. Good kick to Burberry. Burberry goes into the pocket. And here's this man again. Out by himself. All out in the clear in Walker. You'll have to kick from 50 right near the boundary line. So it'll lead his best. He's looking inside. He doesn't look anxious to have the shot for goal.
He's not the most confident guy going for goal and always looking around, but he's going to have to take responsibility now.
Needs to start this one right, you would think. Not that far right, though. And so it turns out to be just Port able to dodge a bullet. Cats get the lead out to 4 points. A real arm wrestle. Kirsten with the only goal so far of the second quarter, and we've been playing nearly 8 minutes.
And Geelong just seem to be getting the edge. They seem to be spreading a bit harder, and maybe their pace at this point of the game has them in the box seat. But we're probably thinking the exact same thing after 8 minutes of the opening quarter, but then Port hit back with 4 goals in succession. What can they do here as they look to answer the surge from the Cats? Pinwell has been quiet so far. Gets to the skipper Baird. Beautiful kick, is it? Well, Pitt was brave running back with the flight of the ball from Simon Hogan, and he's forced the turnover. Stringer has it. Short pass isn't good. Mark Johnston. Now he's got players screaming for it in the middle of the Dockland Stadium. Wolfenden was one. He's a bit slow there, Johnston. Ryan Gale slips into a short position. Generally likes to kick it long, instead has to backtrack. Now, they've been switching the ball pretty well all day. Through the corridor when the disposal's poor is risky. But back to Fleming, he doesn't make mistakes, and now Pinwell's out. Once again, he's got Scipione in the middle of the ground, but he chooses to use it by hand, and this is a pretty handy kick to Galea.
Much better.
Gee, I'll tell you what, they diagrammed that one well. The leaders were all involved in that. Fleming, Pinwell.
And Mark Johnson it was who honoured the lead on that occasion by Galea, who he's there. Well, he's a Frosty Miller medalist. He's the leading goal kicker in the competition, and he is such a good kick for goal.
And he kicked 6 in this place last year. His 100th VFL game, Dean Galea, and he puts Port Melbourne back in front. Fantastic kick from 48 metres. Dean Galea heads Port Melbourne to 5-3-33, Geelong 4-7-31.
Let's get down to the Port Melbourne coach, Gary Ayres, who's with Phil Cleary on the boundary line.
Gary, I was just noticing, I thought your midfield was under a bit of pressure with that Farrell, just weakening a fraction, but you bounce back.
Oh, well, you know, they've got enormous fight, mate, so we've just got to make sure our work, when we've got the ball, especially with our feet, is as pinpoint as we can be, because you only just give them half a stiff and they go bang, bang the other way.
No tiring in the side, the rotation's keeping everyone fresh?
Yeah, that's good one.
All right, all the best.
Good on you, mate.
Business as usual for Gary Ayres, and there is the man in the new jumper, 55. Heath O'Farrell has been put back together again with those stitches. Port Melbourne looking really dangerous every time they go inside 50, just about. They've got some latitude. Selwood tackled by both Valenti and Pinwell. Spills out the back to Dillon. Quick kick is touched. So which way will a bouncing ball go? It was awkward for all the players coming towards it except Hinkley, who met it without hesitation. Mark Johnston to Kane out wide. 55 metres out from goal, so he's too far out. Chris Kane gets onto his left, then ducks back onto the right. Galea! Good contested mark again, despite the best efforts of Erdley and the man who was marking him immediately in Ryan Bathy.
He is just so strong overhead, and gee, you'd honour his lead every single time, because he just runs and hits the ball at pace, and he's a one grabber.
Tougher shot than the previous one for Dean Galea, but as Darren said before, he is the man who's kicked more goals than anyone in this competition this year. The Frosty Miller medalist, 72 goals now so far for the year. He's going to kick from 48 metres, 2 metres in from the boundary line. It's not quite going to get the trim And McLean is there with a decisive finish to get it over for a behind. Port's lead out to 3 points after 11 and a half in the second quarter.
Magnificent stuff from Michael Dillon. He's punched that away from Simpkin, who was just waiting perhaps a little bit too calmly. Should have had a bit more intensity, but Dillon in his exuberance has given away a free kick. High contact, as we just saw his stellar play in replay from a moment ago. The pressure's back on the Cats now. Wolfenden tackles Hogan. Pinwell first to recover. He's got a couple to beat. Does it brilliantly. Hits up Skipper. He's got players screaming for it in the pocket. Can't hit Galea. Can't hit Scipione. But the hand pass has hit O'Farrell, who's kicked the goal! He's just back on the ground after having 100 stitches put in his face. And his impact has been immediate. He's got his second.
What's going on here, too?
There absolutely is. Dean Galea's amongst it. What a surprise, Reece.
Yeah, look, I think it may have been two Geelong players who actually spoiled each other, and the ball just spilt straight out and landed in the hands of O'Farrell, who was able to put it through, and terrific snapping goal. But
you know what started that? The chase of Mitch Wolfenden.
Yep. We just see the ball come in here, and
that's the injury from a little while ago. That's how he was collected early on. And then all of a sudden coming up with a goal, held together by, as Darren said, 100 stitches and elastoplast. And Heath O'Farrell kicks his second. Poor bounce by the umpire, so he's going to have to recall that one and throw it in the air. Port having a good little patch after it. Looked as though it was the Cats who had the upper hand in the arm wrestle in the first couple of minutes of the quarter.
It's the same script as the opening quarter so far.
Seems that way. Dillon's been important in the middle. He drags it in now, so he's got a bit of a problem. Umpire cut him some slack. Said he didn't drag it in. Hall and Smith and Hogan tackling numerically. 33 and 34. Plenty of effort into the bounce. Hogan, he did dive on it, might have got a high one. Hinkley has had some very important touches. Dwyer, once again, allowed a little bit too much space. This time, Gillies is there to cut it off. Handball to Selwood, he's tackled. Gillies needs to thread the handball. Gleeson, Simpkin, arches the back, straightens up on his right foot. Can he deliver? Well, Ryan Gale was awake to it. He was looking for Burberry, and Burberry was too far away. John Baird all by himself out on the dockside wing, and the captain can construct something. He gives it across. Now the mark is taken by Miles Pitt, wheeling and dealing. Ignored the leader, Bonadio. O'Farrell coming at the football. Good defensive stuff, though, from Jed Buse, who takes the relieving mark.
And he's pretty happy just to slow things down. McLean is a steadying influence down back as well. Gillies played a handful of times at AFL level this year. You wonder whether his opportunities lie at the Cats with the retirement of Scarlett or not. Dropping the mark. Pretty disappointing effort was from Kirsten. He knocked it forward, but only as far as Skipper. If Port Melbourne are clean, they'll be out, but they're not. And in the end, it's probably a pretty good result. Breathing a sigh of relief will be Shane Kirsten. Wade Skipper in frame, or just was in frame. There's Dawson Simpson, came to the club just after the 2007 Premiership, where they had players of the ilk of Tom Lonigan, who was best on ground that day, Tom Hawkins, Travis Varco and Trent West in their side. To add to the names that PD listed at the top of the show who were involved in the 2002 Premiership: Chapman, Ablett, Bartell, Kelly, Stevie J and Josh Hunt. Simon Hogan, the only remaining player from either of those two grand final wins for the Cats in their side today. Well done, Scipione. Marked it. I thought he marked it in front of Erdley.
That's a mark every day of the week.
Well, at least the umpire's honest. Sean Gleeson. It's a not, you know, at least he didn't guess, Peter.
Yeah, I think that's right. Common sense there. Baird. Oh, what about that for a handball? O'Farrell for goal number 3 has missed to the left. How about the handball from John Baird there?
He is just so good at extracting the ball in tight situations and finding a teammate. That's his real strength.
Gillies just pops a little 15-metre shorty to Erdley in the right back pocket at the Lockett end of the Dockland Stadium. He's got Schroeder long. Decides to go more direct than that. Bonadio brings it down, but it was high according to the umpire. Would have been a free kick if it hadn't been a mark. Normally just loads it up and kicks inside the 50. Who's jumping? Galea got to the front spot. Eardley able to get it away in the nick of time. Wojcinski brings it out. Burberry needs to be clean, and he was. Got it at the second gather. Nicely done through the middle of the ground. It was Stringer to Schroeder to Holden. Unusual name for a man sponsored with a team sponsored by the Ford Motor Company, and Holden's kick unfortunately let them down, and Sam Fleming stands across halfback and he relieves the pressure and gives it to the sure-footed Stephen Brewer.
And you used to win a car for goal of the year, Pete, and Darcy Holden might have won 2 last week for his efforts, but unfortunately his kick that time wasn't great. Burston's a long way up the ground. Simpson is hard to mark against. Well done by the Cat big man, picked up by Hogan, whose kick tumbles onto the chest of Kirsten. Now he can get the trip here.
Here's a massive kick.
If he calms down and
I was just thinking that he just needs to relax and take his full time. He's a thumping kick of a football, this young fella. But and it was a lucky kick, really. I mean, their kicking inside 50 hasn't been great as yet, but he was able to find a teammate, Hogan, on that occasion. And there's no doubt he'll get the distance.
He was he was Geelong's second pick in last year's national draft, and he's showing all kinds of promise this season. Shane Kirsten has the second. He kicked both of their goals in this quarter. And that one, a little bit more regulation than the last one, but he gets them back to within 4 points. Port Melbourne 6-5-41, Geelong 5-7-37, almost 18 minutes gone, second term.
Yeah, and probably rather than anything being really constructive out of it, is just a tumbling forward kick that was able to find a teammate. They've been coming in with less pressure than that and not able to find a teammate, but you put it in this bloke's hands and he marks the ball. He has a chance from anywhere.
Port with a lot more of the footy, but only a 4-point lead. 143 disposals to 116 at the moment. Matthew Knights consulting with the coaching panel. Gary Ayres very much his own boss. Crackers Keenan down there barking the instructions on the boundary line as well. And of course his defensive coach Peter Searle, that is PETA, blazing a trail for women in the VFL competition. Penwell's kick partially smothered. Stevenson, Corrigan, Wojcinski, Selwood. Out into wide open spaces. Port have got 3 chasing. Geelong have got the football though, and Simpkin has got great evasive skills. Gives it back to Selwood. Measures the pass and finds the veteran Gleeson. Playing in game number 161. Gleeson kicks into the corridor. Nicely done. Good protection by Wojcinski, who got one in the back as he was guarding the space.
He disguised that well too to Wojcinski. It's terrific work.
Stringer looks for the big O and finds him. Inside 50, he can do it at both ends of the ground. We saw that last week, and Stevenson will shoot to give the Cats back the lead.
We just watch his kick coming into Stevenson here. Terrific mark down there. The big fellas, as Dawson and also Stevenson, haven't had the impact I thought they would have had early, rather than the tapping. But it was a great block there, and just experienced by Wojcinski, which was able to get him to get to this stage.
129th VFL game for this man. From the moment he burst onto the scene with North Ballarat, we knew he had something. Geelong have recognised that by taking him onto their list. 8 games of AFL footy this year, and the big O threads the eye of the needle. And the Cats are back in front as we tick up to time on in the second quarter. Stevenson has his first of the afternoon.
And a lot of times it's just the unselfish things you do in a game of football, which helping a teammate out. And that's what David Wojcinski was prepared to do there when they brought the ball back inboard. We just watch it here, and Wojcinski knew the player was coming and Miles Pitter would have been able to put the spoil on, put his body in between, and that just allows him to open the whole forward line up, and there's a good kick in there. Up and out into space in front of Stevenson. He doesn't let you down.
Good delivery from Jesse Stringer.
The 2009 Norm Goss medalist, the best on ground in the VFL Grand Final when playing for North Ballarat, slots his first. Today's Norm Goss medal will be determined according to voting by a panel of 4 judges, including our own David Rees-Jones and Phil Cleary. Stevenson gets it down, the Cats are able to come out of the middle through Corrigan. Now Selwood, the skipper, drives it long at the back. Walker in a bit of a battle with Fleming, and it travels through for 1 behind to the Cats. 6-8-44 Geelong, Port 6-5-41.
I want to get down to Phil Cleary in just a moment. Adam Bentig is just coming back onto the ground. Had such a dominant first quarter. We've hardly seen him at all in the second term. Not sure how much time he spent on the bench. Gale takes the mark, comes inside the pinwall. He wants to move it and does. Selwood was awake to it, but Hinkley was in the right spot. He's got Valenti out wide, and he used him nicely because, oh well, Valenti spilled what he should have taken. He had too much time to think about it. Now the little fella trying to apply a tackle. It was Gleeson down at ground level. Sandilands gets over the top. Valenti right down the bottom with an anguished look on his face as they all fall on top of him.
Well, he'll be ruining missing that mark.
Yeah.
It was his pride that was injured more than anything else on that occasion. You can see that he knows it's disappointed, but we all make mistakes.
Phil, is Adam Bentic okay, or have they just got him back on the chain when he's been on the ground?
Well, look, I think the problem, Peter, with Bentic is the endurance factor. You know, he's not the prime, he hasn't got the prime fitness, and this is a bit of a problem for Port Melbourne because Bentic's had injuries as well. I don't think Pinwell's doing enough, and their midfield was under acute pressure when O'Farrell got hurt, and they're just little spaces opening up. They've got to tidy it up.
Terrible kick from Walker, chopped off by Valenti, to Baird to Brewer, so the veterans combining. Brewer's got a very sure left foot and uses it perfectly up to Dwyer, wants to go. Here's the man in question, Bentic. Now it's one-on-one, mano-a-mano. Pitt gets to the front, nicely done by McLean. Pitt was able to get his foot on the ball, and it just dribbles up, and that's actually a better result for Port Melbourne, staying up their end of the ground. Adam Bentic just imposing himself through the middle, and Stephen Brewer with that sure foot.
And Geelong just really need to look at the way they're bringing the ball inside 50. They're just wasting too many opportunities, and you can't do that against a team like Port Melbourne.
Bonadio rucking against Dawson Simpson. Burston's the third man up for the Borough. Oh, showing him throw it out. Bonners will get the free kick. Great perseverance by the ruckman.
Yep, there was no doubt about that free kick, and the umpire was in the perfect position. Illegal disposal, just able to grab hold of the arm, and the ball spilled clear.
You'd almost prefer him from 50 rather than 25 or 30, Bonners.
Oh, we'll back him in. Couple of goals last week.
Yeah, I'll back him.
He's kicked 16 so far this season. Didn't play in the premiership last year, but Pete Donegan knows him a bit better than we do, Reece. Slams it into the woodwork, and you wonder about Geelong's wasteful chances going forward, and Port Melbourne missing a few shots.
Wojcinski to himself, and then through the corridor. Breakers on now. Hall and Smith gets on the end of it for Geelong. Kicks it long in the Holden direction. Brewer's got it. Handballs backwards. Fleming cool in a crisis. Mark Johnston, Kane, intercepted by Stringer to Walker, and then he just panicked with the kick a little bit. Well done by Holden though, knocks it on. Brewer's got a bit of a problem now because he's got numbers surrounding him. Holden goes to the ground. Fleming was the man who took him to the ground. Umpire hovering and calls a stalemate and says a bounce.
Maybe a little bit unlucky there, Holden. Tackled without the ball.
Seemed that way. Sam Fleming, the man who tackled him. Bonadio with the body strength. Simpkin in very heavy traffic. Out the back door. Hall and Smith tried to do what Kirsten did at the start of the quarter. He couldn't bend it back far enough. And the Cats move on to 6-9-45. Port Melbourne 6-6-42. It's been a terrific grand final. Hope you're enjoying it wherever you're watching on Grandstand.
Port Geelong at +7 in inside 50s, 27-20, but Port Melbourne have had the footy, or disposed of it at least, on 26 more occasions. So an interesting imbalance in the statistic. That's a hold against Dillon. He was never going to be able to compete in the air with Dawson Simpson.
Well, it wasn't a great kick, was it? I mean, why would you kick it to a guy who's probably 6 foot in the old against a guy who's 7 foot against him?
206 centimetres, Dawson Simpson, and he laid it out in front of his teammate there in Brown, but Fleming was good enough to put the spoil on. But again, their attacking foray is cut off. It's just Geelong's attacking side of the centre. The three-time AFL Premiership player, David Wojcinski, kicks it long. Brown flew. Well, Walker it was from a few deep. Kirsten tried to snap on goal, and it trickles out of bounds.
Left a trail of destruction too. Josh Walker in that marking contest. Fleming slow and getting up.
And that's what you want from your key forwards, to go hard at it. But just once again, just sort of bombing the ball in.
you know, you'd rather possess the ball outside 50 a bit more until they've got a bit more space.
Really important couple of minutes here just before half-time. If one team can get a couple of goals, now Bonadio has just got hold of Dawson Simpson's arm.
Is that the chicken wing?
I don't think it was quite the chicken wing, but it looked as though he was just waiting for a teammate to come and grab the other one, and then they might have made a wish. But fortunately, the umpire put a stop to all of that. Plenty of players around the footy, and somehow it finishes up in the hands of Chris Kane, who tumbles the ball up to Bentic, arches the back, but he hasn't got the pace to get away from Erdley. Wojcinski's got pace, but he couldn't get the football. Nicely done down at the base of the pack. I think it was Chris Kane down there.
Scipione, terrific
who
work.
did really well.
Just real desperate stuff on that occasion.
And that's what you like to see in any final, but in particular a grand final. Those desperation acts, the one percenters, they all add up towards the end of the day. Now Bentic, Valenti, O'Farrell is the target with the handball. He's crunched to the ground, and nicely done by Erdley, who doesn't mind showing a bit of physical presence, the young man. He's got a bit of spunk about him, Cam Erdley, and he gets the ball over the line.
Yeah, Cam Erdley and Jesse Stringer hunting in a pair at the moment. Stringer's at the foot of this throw in. He might get it from Schroeder. He fumbles it now. Stringer, he tries to bullock his way through. Hogan with the clearing kick. Williams got a push in the back, I thought. Pinwell threw it out. It's to the advantage of his teammate Wolfenden, though, who loved to just pump it long after breaking the lines. Erdley was, well, he was almost too brave for his own good. It spilt to his teammate. Scrappy passage of play, but it might work out okay. McLean's kick was all right, and then Schroeder got it to his skipper, Selwood. Good contest by Brown. Gleeson's a little bit slow, and it pressures the kick. It still might be okay if Walker can recover. At the back, Burberry can't quite pick it up. He sockers it, it's over the line. It was a bit of licorice all sorts in that passage of play, but Geelong extend their lead to 4 points.
We talked about desperation. It was Sam Fleming just running and swiping the ball over the line with that desperate effort that averted the danger.
Should have done better on that occasion, though, Geelong. They should have scored out of that.
Bentic and Kane collaborating. Here's Burston wanting to move it on very quickly. He's got a one-on-one. Galea's strong. He's very strong. You have to be to get rid of Ryan Bathy. And he just nudged him underneath the football. And Dean Galea will look at goal number 2.
Second time he's done that as well.
He's amazing, this man. How his body strength is terrific. And he just judges the ball so well. He did see a teammate on his own sneaking down forward, but
only 188 centimetres, Dean Galea, so not tall for a key forward, but 93 kilos. He's powerful. And he's accurate. Galea's got his second, and Port Melbourne just edges its way back to the front. We talked last night, and everyone talked about the importance of having the lead at half-time, the importance of that Taylor Walker goal that gave Adelaide a bit of momentum in that classic game of football last night. And who knows, just one goal might give Port a bit of momentum going into half-time.
Yeah, every score's important, and you know, it really come about from Geelong probably wasting an opportunity, and you see Galea there just so often he just able to manoeuvre his opponent out of the way, and he's just the strength of the man. He gives away height on nearly every occasion he plays, and he's just a very strong footballer.
The 5th lead change of the match. Dean Galea with his second goal, his 74th for the season. Been a stellar player. Valenti drives it out of the middle, and Port is beaten by the bell. Geelong perhaps saved by the bell. And it's half-time. There's a little bit going on here between Galea and Andrew McLean. Let's just see if this escalates. It probably won't. Miles Pitt is there for Port Melbourne as well. And the teams are trotting off to their respective races. And at half-time, Port Melbourne have led it both quarter and half-time. Their lead was 4 at quarter-time. It's now 2 points. Port 7-6-48. Geelong 6-10-46. Here's Phil Cleary with the Port Melbourne skipper John Baird.
Geez, at 32, John, that's a pretty hectic game to be part of. I'm not saying you're too old, but gee, it's a tough old gig, isn't it?
Oh yeah, she's a tough game, mate. You know, they're young, they're energy, they've got a lot of talent, so we expect nothing less. But we're going okay, and yeah, should be a good second half. What
are the energy levels like in the side, you think? I thought though you were cracking a little just midway through when you had O'Farrell off and the interchange were restricted, but you seem to have recovered.
Oh yeah, no, we're right. I think we were 10 up, and then we missed a goal we probably should have kicked, which would have put a 16. They kicked a couple and got back in it, but it's pretty even, mate. You know.
It's a quality game. How do you rate it?
Yeah, really fast, tough, what you'd expect a grand final to be.
All the best to you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, John.
From the halftime highlights of the VFL Grand Final to the Grand Final edition of the Margaret Footy Show, and Geelong Premiership coach Chris Scott will be here.
David Cloak joins us.
Mickey O will head our all-star panel alongside Rex Hunt.
We'll have music from Archie Roach and Tim Rogers.
All that and a whole lot more. It's the Grand Final. It's Margaret.
Looking forward to that, the Grand Final edition this week. This was just a moment or so ago. Matthew Knight's taking his players into a huddle on the ground before he went to the rooms, and really emphatic about making a couple of points as quickly as he possibly could.
Yeah, I think that's important, getting out there and, you know, showing them where they should be bringing the ball, what they should be doing. And I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, their inside 50s have been really poor, and they really should have been getting more value for money than what they have so far.
It's been a really entertaining first half of footy, hasn't it? Just 2 points in it, lead changes, both teams having the ascendancy at various times. It's been really enjoyable.
Oh, look, it's a great game of football, and it's what you'd expect from a grand final. I mean, both teams giving it their all. There's mistakes being made, which just indicates the amount of pressure that's out there.
In that quarter, Port Melbourne able to manage 3-4. Interestingly, Geelong 3-6. A couple of rush behinds, though, in that 3-goal 6. So the margin is 2 in favour of Port in what is a really tight tussle in the 2012 VFL Grand Final. O'Farrell, they stitched him back together and he came up with a terrific goal in that second quarter. Dean Galea, both of his goals came in the second term, and Kirsten with the goal of the day at the 2-minute mark of the second quarter. As we look at the numbers there, importantly, Dean Galea answered the challenge from his coach at quarter time because he had a quiet first quarter and was very good in the second.
Yeah, he did, but you know, I mean, it was pretty tough down playing forward, early in the game as well, and we see the numbers there of the guys getting the ball. Holland Smith's one I want to mention. He's got the job on John Baird, and he's cut John Baird out of the game and able to get a lot of ball himself, and he's been very good.
And George Burberry with the 9 disposals and the 1 goal. Let's take a look at the second quarter highlights. Here's one of the best of them. What a hanger from Wojo.
That's a great mark. And look, he had to sit there, but you're still got to get up there and you're still got to take him.
And nearly another one here as well. And that was Walker flying. And what about the goal from Kirsten? As you said, you were just about to criticise him.
Well, yeah, you normally you give and then you block and give your teammates some space, but these days they tend to just keep running on.
And if you produce highlights like that, you can understand why. Great delivery here. Galea getting off the leash at last, and then he kicks so well from 45 metres out. That was after a period where there was a little bit of an arm wrestle. Once again, the script followed the same pattern as the first quarter. Geelong on top early, Port Melbourne working their way back into it.
Yeah, and we see the ball coming in here, and just a really bit of a fumble there. And a bit of a mistake, and it fell into O'Farrell's hands and able to kick the goal.
And then the Cats were able to get a couple and really work their way back in. Kirsten, we know, he's a massive he is a wonderful finisher from long range.
He's a terrific kick, and you'd be looking for him just outside 50. I think you'd be looking to work him in that 40 to 55 metres out from goal, and because he can get the distance, regularly.
And it was a goal apiece after that. Stevenson allowed to sneak into the forward line, kicked a goal. Then Galea got one back for Port Melbourne. The disposals 174 to 145, so they certainly had a fair bit more of the pill, Port.
Yeah, they have, but Geelong probably been a bit more direct, I suppose, and that's the case. And, Port like to, especially in their back line, they like to chip it backwards, and Geelong, they really want to get the ball quick, and they're trying to move the ball quick through the corridor and get it in forward quick as they can.
Well, I think both coaches would probably be largely happy. This is live in the Port Melbourne rooms. Gary Ayres addressing the troops.
You see the one word up on the wall, process, and they've got their processes, and they've just got to stick to those processes, keep them in place, and that's what's got them to this stage, and that's what can win them a grand final.
Let's get down to Phil Cleary as we watch Gary Ayres going through this exercise of reinforcing the positives at halftime to his players. They lead by 2 points. Phil Cleary, as we come to you, it really has been a most enjoyable grand final so far.
It's a cracker game, Peter, and every loose ball is worth its weight in gold. Every possession is so critical to the outcome. You ride it on the boundary line. You can see Gary Ayres, he's a total perfectionist. Every kick, I hear him yelling, down the line at times when a bloke might think of going corridor side and maybe getting a return exit from the opposition. You're watching with Matty Knights. I think his crucial issue is, think about this, when they're going forward, they're not quite finding their targets. Oren Stevenson, different. He goes down and he catches it. They're not catching as many balls there. Plemming and the likes and Gale seem to be slipping in, but it's partly the pressure of that Port midfield closing in on the Geelong players when they move forward. And what I think too, Peter, is there's a little bit more edginess about Geelong than about Port. Port are clean, they are confident, and despite all of that, there's only a couple of points in it. It's a riveting contest. You see the ball go forward and Galea pluck a mark and kick a goal. You see the bloke, he's not a real tall. They are brave hearts, Port Melbourne. Whether they can withstand the pressure in the midfield is the big question. If their midfield can sustain the pressure, if they can grab the loose balls, if they can cut the space, work the stoppages and get it in deep, they will win the game. But I tell you what, anything could happen. They are such skilled sides when they're going well.
Phil, I was just wondering, the players coming on and off the ground, you see them down there firsthand. Now, obviously, the Geelong boys, most of them are professional athletes, whereas the Port Melbourne boys are part-timers. And one of the reasons I picked Geelong to win the game was because of the fitness factor. Can you notice anything different with the players coming on and off?
Look, David, that's exactly the point that I would make too. I agree with you. You know, if you look in, you say, well, surely their fitness will win out. But you know what? Marginally, maybe. I think there's a marginal difference, and that's partly because Dwyer's not 100% fit. Bentic hasn't had the preparation that he needs. Pinwell's a big unit. I think he can do better, and Baird's 32. You would think those Geelong boys would just have the legs, David. You know, the other funny thing, I think, David, you might have a view of this. You've got Gary Ayres, this general, this legend of the game, 5 premierships. He's standing only metres from the Geelong players, roaring out instruction. And those young blokes look at him. I reckon it's a psychological advantage.
And Phil, one thing I was going to say as we go back down into the Port Melbourne rooms again and take a look at that man, Gary Ayres, at his craft. We talked about in the lead up to the game the big ground and the fact that it would probably suit Geelong more, but to my eye it just appears as though Port is probably using the space a bit more constructively than Geelong in the first half.
Very good point, Peter, and I reckon in the back half, haven't they done well on the hit-ups? Every time they've come out in an exit, what footballers call exits, they've found a player, and Matty Knights would be worried about that. He's telling his players they've got to push up and cut the exits, and I'll tell you what, Port have used the ball, the swing, they've changed direction, they've spun the ball out to the spread really, really well. And when it's been hot, gee, they're good. They get in and tackle hard. But having said all of that, a couple of points in it, Pete, we've got a ripper game of football.
We have indeed. Phil Cleary down on the ground at half-time. I wonder how much Oren Stevenson and Dawson Simpson, the combination, is going to be a factor as we head throughout this game. Oren Stevenson is playing a bit of a Darren Jolly role in some ways because he's drifting forward. We've seen him be so good in the hole at the back, but he's drifting forward and kicking goals, and that could be a factor in the second half.
Yeah, look, and Simpson probably hasn't had much of the ball at all, but this is the man, and look, he's a good grab, he's a good kick for goals, so he can be, look, he started forward, so that's how they rate him there. But you know, one thing about the big fellas, they don't get any smaller as the match wears on, as players get tired, they can't jump, so they'll be a factor in this last half.
You know who can jump, and he showed that in the first half, David Wojcinski, the man who's played 203 games of AFL football, coming up with a simply magnificent mark at one stage there in the second term. And you know that his endeavour is going to be there. He will give every last drop of energy that he's got today because he's never going to pull his jumper on again.
No, that's it. And he's been a great servant for Geelong for a long, long time. And you know, for him to come back and play with this young group and really show a lot of leadership out there is terrific. But he's still a great player too. Have a look at that.
as evidenced by that leap. Well worth another look, David Wojcinski. I really liked James Podsiadly was talking about Wojcinski throughout the week and the fact that he was just so intent on playing well in this grand final. Yes, he's been up at AFL grand final level and won premierships, but his attitude towards the week has been absolutely exemplary. We talked about Dean Galea and his influence in the second quarter after his influence was quelled, but we know what a sharpshooter he is. After all, he is the Frosty Miller medalist, and there was a certain amount of positivity about the way he was hitting up on those leads in the second term.
Yeah, well, Gary Ayres put it to him a quarter time, and like the good player that he is, he come out and he was hitting up hard. It was a great kick in there by Mark Johnson, mind you, but yeah, look, he's important. If they're going to win this game, he'll need to kick a bag. He's the key forward down there for them. He's the goal kicking forward. And that was just a strong mark. And we see that week in, week out, where he gives away height, but he just judges the ball so well.
Yes, Ryan Bathy has probably got him by a few centimetres, but he is strong as an ox, Dean Galea. We talked about James Podsiadly talking about his Geelong teammates. What a success story he's been. The Liston Trophy winner from a few years ago and now making his mark on AFL football with Geelong. And at half-time, he's with Phil Cleary.
He is indeed James Podsiadly. I remember him kicking 10 goals in a game somewhere. I thought it was Port, might have been somewhere else, and I said, should be playing AFL, and you are. But forget that for a minute, James. What a cracking game of footy. Tell us about it.
Yeah, look, obviously watching, it's pretty skillful and it's pretty hard at it. So the pressure has been really good from both sides, but I think both sides have also absorbed the pressure pretty well going forward. So it's a cracking grand final.
It's interesting, isn't it? You look how important the stoppages are. As soon as that ball's loose and a bloke gets it, he's pounced on.
Yeah, that's true. But there's also a lot of space, I reckon, between the stoppages and the forward lines. So the clearances this next half is going to be pretty crucial.
We were talking about how Port seemed to hit up out of their back half quite well. They found players on the lead. You blokes at AFL know all about that spread and hit up.
Yeah, I think their Port Melbourne spread has probably been a little bit better than ours, I reckon, in the first half. So we can get on top of them in that second half now.
You're a Geelong man, but you have to marvel at Port standing alone and producing this kind of football.
I think they've got a lot of experienced players who have been on AFL lists in the past, and there's probably a few out there that should be on AFL lists now. So I don't think people should be surprised that Port Melbourne's a standalone club and competing against Geelong. I think they're doing an outstanding job now.
A lot of kids look in and think about VFL football. You've gone and kicked on at a later age and made it. And you look at this footy. If you can do well in this football as a youngster, it says something about your potential, surely, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the VFL comp's here for a lot of reasons, and one of those reasons is to develop young guys as what Geelong's doing. But it's also a breeding ground for future AFL players too. So I think, and there's some guys like John Baird today who's played 10 years in the VFL. So there's a lot of different players that do play VFL, and that's the best thing about it.
Great to talk to you, James. You've been one of our heroes in the old VFL. Great to see you doing well at Geelong. We wish you all the best in the future. Good man.
Phil. Cool.
Good on you, Pods, and in lots of ways he did blaze a trail, not only for the VFL players, but for the mature age recruits as well. Tight grand final, Port has it by 2 at half-time. There's other finals action going on around Australia. Let's get to Matt Clinch, who has the wrap of the SANFL and the Waffle.
Central District was hosting West Adelaide at Football Park in the qualifying final and got the perfect start through Trent Goodrum. But the Bloods were quick to respond.
As a result, it comes back to Izzard. Izzard with a snap at goal. What a finish.
Westies are on top for most of the quarter, and a classy Ben McCready goal just before the quarter-time siren saw the Bloods take a 1-goal lead into the first change. An even second quarter saw Central District hit the lead before Ben Fisher found some space up forward and marked strongly to put West Adelaide back in front.
Ben Fisher's kick is an accurate one.
Bulldogs were matching it with their opponents though, and a late goal to Ryan Williams kept them within touch. 2 early goals in the third term, including a polished long goal from joint Magarey medalist Brad Symes, saw Centrals regain the momentum and the lead, but the celebrations were short-lived.
Oh, brilliant paddle on. Brad Fisher, the handball back in to Filkey. Filkey drills a goal.
The stage was set in the final term and the match was up for the taking. Both teams needed a hero and it came through West Adelaide's Brad Fisher.
He's got plenty of upside, this bloke. Over the back, here's Brad Fisher. Not another left footer. Oh, yes!
Minutes later, his brother stepped in to put the icing on the cake and seal victory for the Bloods. West Adelaide finally broke the game open in the final term after an arm wrestle for 3 quarters, winning by 27 points. Adam Hartlett was best for the Bloods, while Brad Fisher was terrific up forward with 4 goals. North Adelaide had endured an up-and-down season, but had come good at the right time and were out to prove they could match it with the best. The Eagles were on the bottom of the ladder at certain stages of the year, but a strong finish to the season saw them sneak into the top 5. The Roosters came out of the blocks strongly, booting the opening goal of the game through Max Thring, and followed it up with another 5 goals to the Eagles' 2, and set up an early 22-point lead at the first change. The Eagles would respond in the second term as Lee Staple marked and kicked beautifully from a tight angle to keep his side within reach, but another goal to Thring would stretch the margin again in North Adelaide's favour. A mark on half-time to the Eagles kept their hopes alive at the main break.
What a game changer this could be. After the half-time siren, Zach Fitzgerald comes in and kicks truly.
A classy goal to Christian Thornton saw the Roosters regain the momentum early in the second half and kick clear, but the Eagles were finding a way to stay in the match.
Staple getting back. The ball might just roll through for a goal.
North Adelaide took the foot off the gas for a moment in the final term as the Eagles charged home through Fitzgerald. But the Roosters' main man up forward was Lewis Johnston. And he stepped up again in the final term to kick his 4th for the day and the sealer. North Adelaide shone on the big stage and scored a handy 8-point win, while inaccuracy in front of goal proved costly for the Eagles, whose season and the career of Jason Cigalella finished on a damp note. For the Roosters, Central Districts await in a semi-final. In the WAFL preliminary final, East Fremantle was coming off a strong win against the Royals a week earlier, while Swan Districts were hoping to bounce back after a last start defeat to Claremont. The Black Swans conceded the opening goal, but followed up with 3 in a row, finishing with Tom Roach. The Sharks were getting their hands on the footy as well, though, and replied through Richard Hadley. The second term belonged to East Fremantle, as Sean Henson proved his goal-kicking skills before a silky teammate added some magic of his own.
The ball controlled there by Dick, the hand pass not good. He got it back though from Young onto the left foot. What a great snap by Brad Dick.
Down by 4 goals at half-time, the intensity lifted from the Swans in the third term, with Dale Garlett proving his worth. The Sharks' intensity appeared to drop off in the final term as the Black and White Army stormed. And when Ryan Davis snapped goal number 5, it was the Swans' 5th in a row and reduced the margin to 11 points. In the end, the Sharks were able to steady and hold on to win by 27 points. Sean Henson was among the best for the Sharks, with Brad Dick also handy with 3 goals. A 5-goal haul from Ryan Davis, not enough to get the Swans over the line.
The wrap of last week's action in the SANFL and the Waffle, thanks to Matt Clinch. But here at Docklands, it's the VFL Grand Final for 2012. Port Melbourne have their noses in front of Geelong. And Phil, I'm interested in what you were just saying about Geelong being edgy going forward. They seem a little bit more nervous, not as trusting perhaps as their Port Melbourne opponents. And I wonder about that because we've seen the script. The first quarter, Geelong dominated early, Port Melbourne steadied, got their noses in front. Second quarter, identical. How are Port going to avoid that happening in the third?
Look, we always marvel at Port, Darren. It's perfectly reasonable to say they're not going to be able to sustain it for 4 quarters. Or that a side like Geelong with so many quality players is going to crack them open. But they just defy the laws of probability. It's something about Baird, it's something about Penwell, it's something about Galea, it's something about their coach. He puts steel in them, you know. So it's going to be classic to see just how they withstand it. The only issue is, do they tire? And you've only got to tire, Darren, that much, and it cracks open.
Yeah, the percentages are so small. The margin for error is so small in a game like this. But what about Geelong? As we say, going forward, Matthew Knights has been critical of them. He was at quarter time. You feel he had a few important points to make. They've got the tall targets out there, but how do they use them effectively?
Well, they've got to make sure as they're going forward, they're kicking to the advantage of the player. A lot of the time they haven't quite kicked to the advantage. And the thing about Fleming, you're watching him from up above. How does he always find his way into the hole? He just keeps doing it. So they've got to somehow get the ball deeper, get it higher, get it to the advantage of their mate. But what's happening is the Port Melbourne players are scrambling in the middle, just putting enough pressure. Gee, I mean, we could talk forever about how it's going to go. How do you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil. I'll tell you what we do know. There are 2 quarters, barring extra time, of course, barring extra time. There are 2 quarters of season 2012 left. It's a cracking game here on ABC Grandstand VFL. Peter Donegan, David Rhys-Jones are waiting for us upstairs.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you to Phil Cleary. Don't go anywhere. We should be in for an epic second half. Port Melbourne just with their noses in front at the moment, and one number stood out to me at half-time. Reece, apart from the fact that Port have had a lot more ball, they've just been a bit cleaner as well. The turnovers are Port Melbourne 7, Geelong 13.
Yeah, and a lot of that was nerves early, I suppose, and a few mistakes. I think Schroeder made a couple of blunders early, but look, they've had enough of it, Geelong. They've had enough of an opportunity. They need to capitalise on what they're doing at the moment, and they're just really falling down, bringing that ball inside 50. For Port Melbourne, I really think they need Pinwell and Johnny Baird. They really need to stand up in this last half and produce as they have consistently over the last few seasons, and they can win the game.
Umpire David Harris gets the second half of the grand final underway. Silver drove past it. Hall and Smith got his nose over the footy, and in doing so finished up with a free kick and moves it on quickly. Launching a ball inside the 50. Fleming going back with courage. It comes to the back. Johnston goes to ground. Schroeder tried to knock it on. Dangerous from Noonan. And it was a good reflex from Simon Hogan. The ball just about out of his clutches. And without controlling it, he threw his boot at it and came up with a minor score.
I think that's the thing. He just couldn't get control of the ball there. And good attempt, though.
Just goes to show how important the centre clearances are. Geelong discovered that early. They were able to get a couple of goals early on. Brill was told to play on, had to kick it from inside the square. Penwell elected not to punch. He might have been a bit lucky. Went for the mark along with Troy Selwood. And now they have half of it each. And that's exactly the explanation from the umpire.
And you watch Pinwell and Troy Selwood, opposite numbers out there, but they are two guys who will just give their all in this last half. They will do anything and everything to get their team over the line.
It's been really well officiated so far. Just the 10 free kicks in the first half and one so far in the second half. Could have almost been one there to Hall and Smith, who was collapsing underneath the weight of Penwell and trying to convince the umpire that he was pushed in the back.
Now, I might surprise you, Pete, but the umpires this year in the VFL competition have been terrific, and common sense has been the real theme that I think they've been introduced back into football.
There was a good tackle by Mark Johnston on Schroeder as well. No, you've been singing the praises of the umpires all the way throughout the year, and I think they've done an excellent job under the leadership of Kevin Mitchell. At this level, they've been really impressive. Valenti, high. Jonathan Simkin, the man, transgressing. Valenti's kick, not great. Shannon Burns will chop it off. He's looking for Bonadio coming out on the lead. Burns, who, if the rumours are correct, might also be playing his last game at Geelong. Plenty flying for Port. That means there's a few on the deck, and Hogan won't miss this one. He got his hands on the footy this time, and Simon Hogan, the veteran, restores the lead for Geelong by 5 points after 2.5 minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah, and he's I'm trying to think of his age now. I'm trying to look over there. What do you call him, a veteran? He seems to have been around for a very long time.
He does.
Hogan,
Well,
but,
24
years of age.
That's a pretty young veteran, really, isn't it? But he has been around a long time.
Well, he has, and he's been a very good player at this level. Hasn't been able to really make any mark at AFL level, but terrific footballer at this level. Once again, just classic roving off the pack on that occasion.
He's had all sorts of issues at various times in his career. Simon Hogan playing in his 79th VFL game, and he's played a total of 22 AFL games as well. In the middle, nearly hit Stevenson on the head. Wolfenden, quick hands, maybe a bit too quick for Penwell. Then he had no one to give it to, so he delayed the handball judiciously, as it turns out. Sneaking out the back door to try and fetch the skipper kick as Dwyer. Took him 3/4 of an hour to pick it up, and then he comes 15 metres backwards to the number 15, John Baird. Now he's right on his limit. He'll need his very best kick from here. Coming on the lead is Kane. Baird has a look. Scipione comes out on the lead as well. So he puts it to a dangerous spot. Wojcinski in the front spot. Here is Kane. Little handball. Wolfenden. Penwell off the standing start. Loads it up and misses to the right. And reduces the gap back to 4 points after nearly 4 minutes of the third term, I should say.
And that was a terrific contest by Bonadio, just to bring the ball to deck. Too often forwards either give away free kicks or try and go for the mark. He was content on that occasion just to bring the ball to the deck and keep the ball alive.
You're talking about Simon Hogan, his 6th year at Geelong. The only member of the 2007 Geelong VFL Premiership side who's playing here again today.
Maybe that's what prompted me to call him a veteran, Darren. I was being a bit unkind.
He's been around for a little while. Johnston
Gets it to Gale. He's a booming kick to the advantage of Gillea. Not quite. Gillies was half a step in front of him. And Gillies' kick is a bit dicey. Valenti intercepts it. Can't quite pick it up. It was by Shannon Burns.
Hurdley was fantastic on that occasion.
And Sheringham gives it to Hall and Smith. Reece has been impressed with his game, and this is a pretty impressive kick. Walker used his body, and Gale did well not to give away the free kick. The Port Melbourne defender, Ryan Gale, running back with the flight. And it's going to be tossed in. Geelong's attacking zone. 25 metres around from their goal. They lead by 4 points, courtesy of that Simon Hogan goal at the 2-minute mark.
Barry Umpire gets the ball active again. To the back, Dawson Simpson, only to Wolfenden. Fleming had to reach for it, coughed it up to Sheringham. Now here's Hogan, really having an impact at the start of this third quarter, and that's a terrific contested mark by Mitch Brown. Tough ball to mark again, and Brown will have a shot for goal to give Geelong a bit of breathing space. And he's going to give it to Stevie J around the corner. Obviously they're pretty adept at this at Kardinia Park, and he proves that they are. Mitch Brown comes up with the goal, his second of the afternoon, and there is some breathing space for the Cats. 10 points after 6 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just, these guys, Mitch Brown, he probably hasn't had the greatest game so far, but you see the ball, he probably had a little bit more time there, Hogan. He's able to get it in, and just the height and mobility of guys such as Brown, Walker, these guys down there. They'll shift Stevenson down there from time to time. So that's going to be a real worry for Port Melbourne.
Phil, I want to get your observations about Geelong and the way they go forward.
They're trying to go deeper and they're going higher, and they're just not turning that ball over in the same fashion. Plus, that's the little turnovers of Valenti, a missed opportunity. Port must continue to score and catch the ball inside 50.
And the script has been written in the first and second quarters in exactly this fashion. The third term, Geelong starting brightly. They've kicked 2 goals in the opening 5 minutes. Can Port Melbourne steady? The biggest lead of the game held by either team was 13 points, which Geelong held when it was 13-0 at the start of the match. Hogan's hand pass was superb. Burns is a left footer, and he loves to just run and deliver long. It was a little bit high for Kirsten, and they can watch it go over the line.
Hasn't Hogan had a good 7 minutes?
Yes, he has. And look, as we mentioned, he's a terrific player at this level, and you often wonder why players are so good at this level and just can't break it, or maybe it's luck or just not the opportunity, but he's a good footballer.
Simpson knocked it down, trying to find Simpkin, couldn't do it. Dillon showed some poise. Mark Johnston, the Dominators boy. His brother Clay was an omission from this side, the preliminary final side last week. Valenti didn't mark it, but did enough to control it. Now, the kick is going towards Gillea, and Hinckley is clear, but the bounce is terrible for Port Melbourne. It allows Geelong time to get some numbers back. Sheringham was dispossessed. Wolfenden again showed a bit of class. O'Farrell around the body already has a couple, but this one won't score. The mark is taken by Schroeder.
Lucky not to get 50, Chris Kane. It should have been 50. The umpire was calling him back to, and he never got back to. Mitch Brown all the way up there now at half back. After kicking the goal a moment ago, delivery good, and this man has started like a house on fire in the second half. Simon Hogan pops one over the top. Schroeder's got space. Bentic the chaser. Schroeder to half forward. Little shove from Kirsten. Good mark by Brewer. Juggled it and took it surely. And kicks in to the corridor. Dillon's got it. Uses Kane by hand. Takes a bounce. Not a great handball to Wolfenden. Changes direction so well though, Mitch Wolfenden. He's got Hinckley. Hinckley makes a path for Gillea. Comes to the ground and is knocked away from Miles Pitt. Here's Shannon Burns to McLean at half-back. Time to dance on the spot, assess the options, and show a cool head in delivering to Dom Gleeson, the veteran. He is a veteran.
He is. And what about the spoil from Bathy down there? It was as good as a kick. This is Hogan again, keeps going like this. He might be a hero at the end of this match. Gale picks it up, got it to Brewer. And here's Williams now for Port Melbourne. It's an awkward kick, but the stretch is pretty good from Scipione. Now he can't go inboard really. Well, he does. He risks it, threads the needle. Chopping the ball off there was Corrigan.
gives the Cats a chance. Gleeson gets it batted away from him by Scipione, the player who made the error. Now there's a path through the middle. Valenti could take it. He could give it to Noonan. Chooses to go longer for Galea. Bathy closes down his space. Again thumps it clear. Running onto it was Bentic. He really is, Pete, and Scipione and Valenti. Can they get it to him? They can't. He's looked towards Burston instead. Tough play on. Billy on the left. Billy Burston gets it. Much needed goal for the Borough. 10 minutes into the third quarter. Port Melbourne again have steadied. Geelong get out to a 10-point lead. Port Melbourne slash it to 4.
And I think I mentioned earlier, he's a very exciting player, Billy Burston. Touch ball coming in there, so he was under pressure, played on, and that's a thumping left foot, isn't it? That's a great goal and much needed by Port Melbourne.
Second goal for Billy Burston, no stranger to big goals in the third quarter of a grand final at the Docklands. Just what he did last year, as Darren said, at the other end of the ground, one of the great grand final goals. That one not quite as good, but very valuable nonetheless. Gets it back to 4 points in this great arm wrestle in the 2012 VFL Grand Final. Bonadio doing the ruck work this time. Woofenden went without it. Continues to chase and then use the body. Good stuff from both players there. Bonadio goes in. It was Holden who was the man in the contest a moment ago. Penwell turns back into traffic. Hopeful handball to Williams, who just gives it a little volleyball tap. Orland Smith finishes up with it. It's a tight footy here. Look at the tackling from Port Melbourne. Penwell, Williams now in some space. Can he give the handball off? Duck the head to Woofenden. Hot handball to Kane, to Burston. Look to find Bentic. Geelong standing up to the pressure. Buse kept a cool head. Bathy tries to walk through the tackle. Gives it out wide to Buse again. He got some attention after he kicked it. Delivery was good. Kirsten's got it. He's got a man running hard and honours the lead of Schroeder, who takes the mark on the wing. He's got one a bit further. Up the line goes Holden. And Holden comes out and Gale just knocks it away from him. Stops his momentum a little bit. Holden's got Simpson in the corridor. Schroeder continued to run. Instead, he's going to load it up, kick it to the dangerous spot. Port favoured numerically. It's on the ground. Burberry goes sliding in. He just wanted the football and goes sliding in at the feet of Chris Kane. And the desperation of both teams coming to the fore in the decider.
Yes, and what a passage of play. Well called, Pete. 12 minutes into the third quarter. Great stuff by Ryan Gale to stop the momentum that Geelong had up. A bit of professional, almost a professional foul, Reece it was, but he sort of knocked the ball clear of his Geelong opponent. And the Cats led it by 4.
Well, Mitch Brown was inside 50 on his own, so he had to do something. He left his, well, he was playing on Brown, so he left him and had to do something.
Bentic extracts it, but it's stolen by Simpkin. He took too long. Well done by Brewer. Now the left footer will probably want to switch play. They're not going to be able to escape here now. Chris Kane is all on his own in the corridor. It would take Brewer's best kick. He's looking down the line. Scipione offers short. He goes longer looking for Burston. Gillies collects it at the back. Scipione put pressure on the kick. Thought it was touched. It's a free to Andrew McLean. Umpiring being good today. They've allowed the players to sort it out for the most part. It's a great kick to a man all on his own, but Darcy Holden got spoiled by his teammate Brown. But waltzing into the open goal is Jesse Stringer. The Cats had the numbers, a little bit lax by Port Melbourne. Not their usual form, David Rees-Jones. The Cats lead by 10 again.
Yeah, and just might be a little bit of tiredness creeping in. We have mentioned it, you know, these majority of these Geelong players, that's terrific work and just great contest. It was Holden going for the ball, but also Port Melbourne player there, Gale, was... you look at football now, they're terrific. They just throw themselves at the football. Courage is just secondary these days. It's expected from every player, and when it's your turn to go, as it was for young Holden and Gale on that occasion, and Stringer was able to clean it up.
They call it the Premiership Quarter, and that's what Geelong is trying to prove here. They're surging. Bit of attention for Stephen Brewer down on the boundary line. Umpire slams it down in the middle of the Docklands again. Stevenson got the tap. Selwood held by one arm, and it was dragged back in by Baird of Port Melbourne. on the ground. They got a little handball out. Hogan was held without it. Hinckley taking 3 goes to pick it up. Finally did. Little 1-2 with Skipper was very good though. Hinckley darts away and then kicks nicely. Scipione at 55. Galea the target. Good punch by Bathy. Decisive fist. Only as far as Burston. Didn't take possession of the footy. Desperation from the Cats, and he earned a free kick. That was great stuff from Jed Buse. He just imposed himself and wanted the football and got the free kick as a consequence.
He's had a terrific game so far, young Buse, and as you said earlier, his father Andrew will be very proud of him.
Mark Johnston, Fleming, cool in a crisis. Kick not great though. Burston had to go. He forced the contest, then he might have fallen into the back of his man, but he got a handball. Released Baird. Baird's got a vacant goal square, but chipping in front. Galea comes from behind, found himself in front, and found himself with the Sharon.
He is amazing, Dean Galea. He just gets himself into the right spot. That kick wasn't intended for him, but he was able to... He looked like he was out of the contest and wasn't even going to compete, and it was just going to be thumped through. He just willed himself to get there.
Great effort by Billy Burston in that contest, outnumbered 3-1. It's going to be goal for goal at the start of the third quarter. Brown then Burston, Stringer then Galea. He's got 3. Margin goes back to 4 in a thrilling grand final of 2012.
Yeah, and you won't find Port Melbourne lying down. They might be getting tired, and they will come off this ground spent at the end of this. And you mentioned it, Billy Burston just being able to hold his feet in that marking contest and just extract the football. Terrific handball. Normally it's John Baird who's firing out those sort of handballs, but he collected one from Billy Burston on that occasion.
Crackers Kendon reckons there's a cool breeze blowing through his body, but he was intense on that occasion, Phil, Billy Burston.
Oh, look, I tell you what, the crowd involvement is just stunning. I would have thought more Geelong, but it's Fairningham. They are fired up, and the Port people here are just amazing. And the pressure of the game, and on a tactical note, Darren, better when they go deep. When they go deep to Dean Galea, I think it's much better than going short at 45. So they've got to try to get it deep because he can't get to the second contest.
Yeah, both clubs trying to go a little bit deeper in this term as the Cats go forward again through Corrigan. Beautiful clean hands were from Dom Gleeson. He's going to get it back from Hogan. The former Werribee skipper constructs the play beautifully.
Fantastic work and very clean hands by all the players. I think Orland Smith was involved as well. It was just classic work. I mean, a lot of people in Gleeson's position there would have blazed away, but saw his teammate on his own and was able to pinpoint him, and that's just good vision. And pretty smarts from Dom Gleeson.
Shane Kirsten looking for his 3rd goal for the afternoon. And he's just got it. So the Cats re-establish their 10-point lead. Geelong 10-11-71. Port Melbourne 9-7-61. In a stunning grand final. VFL footy on ABC Grandstand.
Yeah, at his best too. And Kirsten, hasn't he had a great final series? And sometimes it's just something like a good final series such as this, which really can have a good impact on a player going into a pre-season. And let's hope it does that with this young fella, because he's a good talent and he can thump the ball too.
They often say in major tennis matches that the player who serves first has an advantage. It should be the same because they're both having the same amount of serves, but by making the opposition play catch up, it wears you down mentally. Geelong's been able to do that 3 times so far now in this third quarter. Twice Port have been able to answer. Are they able to answer again? Skipper nearly took it out of the ruck. Simpkin, very good driver in very heavy traffic. Look at that, out to Schroeder. His handball not great. Good physical presence from Pinwell. Now Kane looks for a short, gets it over the top, finishes up with Galea. He uses the handball to Kane, who tries to squeeze it, and he got it over the top of McLean. And they've got the quick reply. And the grand final goes up another notch. This is a great contest. Geelong poses the question, and Port Melbourne invariably comes up with the answer.
Yeah, Chris Kane is such a dangerous player. We've seen him, in the back half and round the midfield in the first half. But pushing forward, he was involved in a couple of occasions there. The Geelong players calling the touch, but he's just a smart player around goals. Very, very good football.
Still harbours hopes of perhaps making it at AFL level. The 24-year-old Chris Kane, one of a dozen premiership players
in this Port Melbourne side. It didn't look like it was touched by the player on the goal line.
I think
thought it was off the boot.
Off the boot.
But
they were calling for it. But I don't think it was touched off the boot either. I think that was just a very clever goal there by Chris Kane, which we see quite often.
Matthew Knights and Max Rook amongst a cast of thousands in the Geelong coaching box, and the Cats are going to go forward again through Jonathan Simpkin. Has had a brilliant year. The former Sydney Swans listed player. Down at the full-back line, though, Daniel Noonan has the answer once again. He hacks it as far as he possibly can. Burns escapes the clutches of Valenti. Pivots onto his left, looking for Kirsten. Miles Pitt with a brilliant grab. The one-on-one contesting from the youngster from Sorrento has been excellent the last 2 seasons. And Port again, looking to run to create. They're sticking to their game plan, come hell or high water. What a kick it was from Skipper. He's found Williams, a 19-year-old from the Calder Cannons in the middle of Docklands Stadium. Baird gives it back to Williams. Bonadio's on a lead. He ignores him. Running back with the flight is Galea. Thumped through. Timely fist by McLean. One behind. Geelong by 3 points. Time on, third quarter in the grand final.
This is a very good advertisement for how good this competition can be. We're seeing one of the best games we've seen all year at the time you want to see it. In the grand final, Wojcinski to Bathy, back to Wojcinski, and loads a barrel into the middle, just towards the dock side. Noonan had first hands to it. Walker just off his toe. Burberry sneaking out the back, draws the man, gives the handball. Stringer's got pace, but he hasn't got the football. Now Mark Johnston's got it. Stringer's got him. Is he trying to get rid of it? Umpire has given him the benefit of the doubt.
Just a little fumble there by Stringer. If he picks that clean, I don't think there's a player out there who would have caught him.
Well, if Johnston made an attempt, that was a good decision by the umpire because there was no prior opportunity. Baird's going to do the ruck work with one arm held. Schroeder, little handball. Walker's in the front spot. The ball eludes him, but he toes it 5 metres. Fleming cutting across the front. Schroeder off the ground. Just couldn't get any direction on the kick. He stretches the lead out to 4 points. We're in time on in the third quarter. It's been Geelong first with the goal. Every time Port Melbourne has answered so far in the third quarter, and we're witnessing a wonderful grand final in 2012.
And the 2-time Liston Trophy winner for the best and fairest in the VFL competition, Shane Valenti, controls the footy, and he controls it into the hands of Miles Pitt. John McCarthy's cousin was so emotional last week, and he stood up in the preliminary final, the second biggest game of the year, and he's earned himself a trip here to Docklands in the big one. Skipper overcooks that pass, and Hogan collects the mark, gives it to Stringer, who's gone. Hinkley stuck the tackle just. I thought maybe I might have gone a bit early, and perhaps the umpire did as well. Reece, apparently a lot of people have that problem. It's not such a big deal, but Clayton Hinkley has it across half-back.
And the former Docker, that's a shove against Corrigan. Free kick to Bentic. All of a sudden the Geelong crowd finding their voice. Bentic looks in the corridor. He's got O'Farrell. O'Farrell's got Valenti. Valenti has a man on him, but he was on the wrong side. It was a great smother by Schroeder through the middle of the ground. Take 2 for Valenti. Flares it out wide. Woofenden has the football. He's got men streaming through the corridor, but he's also got a man out wide, O'Farrell. We know he's a goal kicker, and he's already kicked 2. And he's going to have a difficult shot for goal here from just near the 50, but he's capable.
Yeah, and he's had a really good game so far. O'Farrell had a real impact.
Well, remember the goal he kicked in the first quarter. He had options. He took the responsibility on himself, and that's what he's doing here. He'll need his best, Heath O'Farrell, from 48 metres on the boundary line. It's not bad, and luckily for the Cats, Dawson Simpson was there to use the big body to get it through. The margin is 3. Nearly 24 minutes, third quarter.
The Port Melbourne side have found a way to have their noses in front at the 2 changes so far, by 4 at quarter time, by 2 at half time. Can they do it again? They'll have a chance to build from Fleming. He's got a possession forward of centre. It's a rarity. He bombs it long. Bonadio has to jump. Galea waits at the back. Corrigan fumbled it for the Cats. Galea pushed him. Well, I thought he pushed him in the back. The umpire said hi. The thousands of Cats fans that adorn the City side wing and are cheering with all their gusto that they can manage.
Oh, that's
enjoyed that free kick, but it was a terrible kick. Sandilands is there for the Borough, gives it to Kane. He does the team thing. He spotted a man in burst at the top of the square. Billy couldn't collect it. Dom Gleeson could for the Cats. Corrigan under pressure again. Fast hands, almost fine. Wojcinski. Look at Bonadio. He batters through. He stands up. He gets it to Williams, who can't get the trip. McLean with the mark.
Bonner's like a battering ram in that contest. McLean to Bathy. What a third quarter this has been. One way, then the other. Hall and Smith stands up in the tackle. Gets a little handball away. Hogan's had a really good third quarter. Dawson Simpson, little look away handball to Selwood to Hogan. That wasn't a great handball. Hinkley standing there, has an option coming backwards, and that option is Mark Johnston. Loads up, kicks to the 50. Kane, the big fly, brought the ball to the ground. Now he might get the pinwheel handball. Kane, normally a good finisher, not that time. Good half volley gathered by McLean. Cool in the crisis when he needed to keep a cool head. He brings it out to Sheringham on the city side of the ground. Up the middle of the ground he goes. Bonadio gets there late. Burns says it's a mark, and the umpire says, hang on to it, I'm not giving 50. Shannon Burns, he drives looking for the big O. What about that for a contest by Valenti? Outsized by about 3 feet. He did what he had to do. He held the progression up, even though the big O got the free.
And the big O, who has been named in the VFL's Team of the Year on 4 occasions before he was drafted by the Cats, drives it long. He's got a goal today. Hasn't had perhaps as much influence as we thought he might. Credit's got to go to Wade Skipper, the former Bulldog, for that, as Gary Ayres patrols the boundary. Bonadio it is, rocking against Stevenson. They've gone to war many times before. Wolfenden hacks it long. Galea's high. Up the ground, he's normally coming out of the square. Bathy's been pretty good this quarter. He's controlled Galea for the most part. Wojcinski, Hall and Smith. Burns always finds a way to get onto that left foot. He spreads it. He's got a player there in Holden whose kick is to the advantage of Brown. Excellent stretch from Brown, and David Rees-Jones described it mid-flight as a good kick.
That was just a terrific kick on the left foot and up and out in front of your teammate. And that's, you know, in a one-on-one situation, and just move the ball quick too into your tall forwards. That's a fantastic kick, and there is nothing that Sam Fleming could have done on that occasion.
Mitch Brown, in his 4th year at Geelong, he was pick 15. He's had all sorts of injury problems. Slid that into the woodwork. It looked good everywhere but the last 30 centimetres. 2 goals, 1 to Mitch Brown today. The Cats lead by 4 points nearing three-quarter time.
That would have been a really critical kick again to perhaps give the Cats some momentum. Brewer electing to go straight up the middle, but the big O was awake to it and gets the ball down away from Dillon. Cats have got numbers on the ground here. Stringer didn't take clean possession. Dillon does, and he had one arm held, so it's got to be holding the ball.
Yeah, he tried to burst through on that occasion.
Schroeder, the man who comes up with the football. Can they get a late goal? The kick very wide, low percentage option out to Walker, and then his handball not great. He was trying to find Shannon Burns, unable to do so.
His disposal today, Schroeder's been fairly average, to say the best.
Matty Knights knows we're getting close to three-quarter time. He's making his way down to the ground for the three-quarter time address. Stevenson brilliantly knocks it down. Hall and Smith from 48 metres out slides one across the face of the goals. So 2 opportunities, 1 gilt edge for Mitch Brown, and then a half chance for George Hall and Smith. Cats have got the lead. They haven't had it at a break so far. As Darren said, it's been Port narrowly, but Geelong's got it for the moment.
Ryan Gale kicks it to 3-on-1 contest. Hard to believe he made that decision. Jed Buse tried to claim the mark. It must have come off a teammate's hands because there was no Borough player in that contest. Umpire David Harris says he'll ball it up, and he does just that. 60 out from the Cats' goal. Scipione Rove, the tap for the Borough. Stringer on top of him, putting all sorts of pressure on. O'Farrell got it clear. Now Valenti normally makes good decisions. How's this one? It's a good decision. The execution a bit short for Baird. And under pressure from Cam Erdley, he kicks it out of bounds on the full.
And he had a problem there, John Baird, because the only man that he could have used with the handball was Adrian Bonadio, who was limping off the ground.
So we'll have a look at Bon as he's sitting down in the race at the moment, or in the dugout at the moment. Well, they've been unfair to call them dugouts in the salubrious sounds of the Dockland Stadium here, but
Geelong lead it by 5 points, nearing three-quarter time. Sheringham kicks it long, looking for Brown. Simpson couldn't take the mark. Brewer tackles him. Gleeson runs onto it. He's been told to kick it as long as he possibly can, and he does just that. Fleming goes back, provides the contest with Kirsten. And Williams was there as well. It's an even goal, but they've had more scoring shots, Geelong. 6 more. 10-9 the Borough, 10-15 the Cats.
And once again, you called it right there, Darren. Kirsten just had his hand in the air calling it long. He should have really made some movement or looked at some space to move into. He made it easy for the defenders.
Williams, Dillon, Brewer collaborating. Burston was the target. Bathy stands strong in the tackle and then gives Burston some attention after he got rid of it. Standing tall, Dawson Simpson. He's got a man on in the corridor, but he just took a little bit too long to get it to Holden. Williams out the back door and through the middle of the ground. Here's Wolfenden out the far side. They're out. If O'Farrell can get it on, he does. Scipione gives it to Penwell and the siren sounds. So it was goal for goal all the way through the term. Toby Penwell, the most optimistic player on the ground, but no one is going back near the ball. He's got a barrel going here, and if it had bounced away from the player, it may have even got a score. It doesn't matter now. We've had a terrific third quarter. The Cats have edged their way to the front. They lead by a goal with a quarter to play. In the last quarter, Phil Cleary, we are set for an epic final term.
It's the most suspenseful game of football at VFL level I have seen for years and years and years. It is just an astounding contest. The ability of the players to get to eat loose ball, to try to win that critical contest. Matty Knights came down onto the ground for the last couple of minutes. He stood, it was almost like they were in awe, the coaches, of what's going on. He is, of course, more involved, but truly, Peter, this isn't PR I'm giving you. This is a remarkable game of football.
Well, it's deserving of a full house here at the Docklands. We haven't got that today, but those who are here are making plenty of noise and they're seeing a great grand final. Gary Ayres getting the troops in already at three-quarter time to have a chat to them early on, to reinforce the messages that he's reinforced all the way throughout the year. They've lost the lead, but 3 times throughout that quarter, David Rees-Jones, when Geelong posed the question, Port was able to find the immediate answer.
Oh, yeah, as I said, I think earlier in this, Port Melbourne will not lie down. They are going to give it their all. I just thought Geelong had a lot of opportunities in that quarter to really, kick clear and just some poor disposal at times. We see the goal kickers there, Galea. Look, he needs to kick 2 or 3 more for them to win. And O'Farrell's chipped in with a couple, and Billy Burston as well. For the Cats, it was Kirsten with 3.
And so
Chris Kane, he was important in that quarter and kicked a good goal. And Fleming, as you expect, across the back half. Valenti, he's been having a go. O'Farrell's been dangerous up forward. And Simon Hogan in that quarter was fantastic. Holland Smith's the one I've really been wrapped in his game. He's been terrific over the course of the game, and he's had the hard job on John Baird. He's been able to put him out of business and also pick up possessions.
And talking of Simon Hogan, we'll find out from our statistician Paul Field. He's had 19 disposals to three-quarter time. I reckon 7 or 8 of them coming in that third quarter. He was so important, coming up with an early disposal there, getting it to Mitch Brown, who got the goal at the 5-minute mark. But even before that, Hogan had a couple of opportunities. Yeah,
he did. And, there's one off the ground he had. And he picked up a lot of it. He had the ball on the string there for a while, and a lot of attacking was coming from Simon Hogan.
11 disposals he had in that third quarter, Simon Hogan. But as we said, it was just goal for goal all the way. Billy Burston standing up under the pressure 4 minutes after Mitch Brown's goal.
This is exactly what grand finals are all about. It's pressure football. It's hard. It's tough, and this game's just been terrific and relentless from both teams. And Billy Burston kicking a terrific goal. He's such an exciting player, and he was also able to extract the footy out later on in the quarter as well.
And what a great contest that was. Holden causing the spillage. Stringer able to kick the goal. That was at the 13-minute mark. But once again, when that 10-point buffer was reached, Port Melbourne able to come up. What about the effort of Billy Burston in that passage of play?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, normally you see it's John Baird who was on the end of that handball. He's the one extracting it out of those situations. But terrific work by Burston and Dean Galea. He's going to be so important in this quarter. If they're going to win the game, I think he needs to kick 2 or 3 more goals.
And it was just as if, look at that for a finish from Dom Gleeson to Kirsten straight in front of goals. It was as if Geelong was saying to Port, okay, we've got the legs. We're going to keep on just pressing you to the wall, and Port was able to keep on fighting its way back. The disposals, 270 to Port Melbourne and 221 to Geelong. So it's a difference of 50, and yet it's Geelong in front on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and while, you know, you look at the errors, I suppose, the turnovers, and
they've evened up a bit. It's 12 to Port Melbourne, 14 to Geelong now.
Yeah, well, it was well, you know, in Geelong's favour for a long time, and that's probably what's hurt Geelong a little bit. But Port Melbourne, to their credit, they're not going to give up. They're just going to keep going, and any team coached by Gary Ayres wouldn't know the meaning of giving up. He's just going to drive it in on what they need to do to stick to their structures and get the job done.
Matthew Knights is addressing the troops. Here he is, the Geelong coach, a quarter to play in the grand final.
Right, what's happening back here? Shez has ended up in the high one most of the time anyway. Good, because he virtually plays like a defensive winger. Doing a hell of a job back there for us, Shez. Suspenders, where are you? You're doing fantastic for the team. You're halving contests. You're not giving away frees. Stay aggressive, but stay legal. And keep using each other in a measured fashion out the back. Really good. String and Burnsy. Schroed, Sells, Haaland. Sells, same role with Haaland.
Yep.
Dawson, where are you, mate? Great to see that down the line method. You're there for us. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to need it again. Warren Dawson, we need you fresh and we need you big for us. Competing, second and third effort. Joffa, quick 3 or 4 again, mate. Yep. Off and then back in mid. Yep. Dom, you come into that role. Yep. Then we go into 7. Yep. Harry inside mid, but we'll work you with Hogs as well. Yep. Okay, everyone good with that? Yep. Come on. Here's Iggy, ready to come. He's ready to come. This here, we played our role much better, weren't we? Played as a team. I saw a team from up there all the time. Defensive covering off. Transition. Now remember the forwards. You've got to get up and defend once we lose it. Help us on the 45. Okay, we've got a couple of chop-off balls. We'll continue to get that if we put that in them on. If the forwards come up, stop the switch in the 45, the other players defend the skinny. Okay, and then we work off that. Okay? It's going to come down to contested football. In the stoppages, in the air. That's what it comes down to. Because I know if we went contested ball, we'll own the outside.
Matthew Knights at 3/4 time. Let's go down to Phil Cleary. He's spoken to Gary Ayres a lot throughout this season at a no more important time than this. 3/4 time of the grand final.
Gary, it's high emotion. Of course, it's about skill and doing things right, but you've got to drag something out of the petrol tank too as well, don't you?
Oh, you do, mate, because this is where it's at now. You know, all the work that we've done for 12 months, it's got to ride on this last 25 or 30 minutes.
It's remarkable to be a coach here and just wondering and hoping whether you can jump. What do you tell me honestly, what do you think?
Oh, I just think we've got to be positive, and that's the coach's role, mate. You know, the game's not over until the final siren goes. These guys have been unbelievable. You know, they've got big hearts, so they've just got to put it on the line again.
Is your midfield tiring?
Oh, I don't know about tiring. I just reckon we're losing it outside. Yep. We've just got to get the game back on our terms.
All the best to you.
Thanks, mate.
Who's it going to be in VFL season 2012? The Cats have a minimal advantage by 6 points, looking to add to their VFL premierships of 2002 and 2007. Port Melbourne looking to go back-to-back and capture their 17th flag. This should be 30 minutes of great football. Don't go anywhere and enjoy the action on grandstand. First contest won by Skipper. Pimmel dives on the football. Now he's got to get it out. Stevenson's got him. Umpire hovering. Gives them some time and elects to call it a draw again. How long can Wade Skipper maintain this battle that he's had against the two towers in Stevenson and Simpson? The coach calling for plenty from them. Valenti tries to work his way through. He's got no path. Hall and Smith and Simpkin making sure of that. The tense early minutes, a little hush over the crowd in the first minute of the final quarter. Dillon third man up. He's done that a few times today. Not effectively this time. Hogan to Burns. Shannon Burns on the left foot, looking for Walker, and he shoved Noonan out of the way and took a strong mark. Plays on quickly in the corridor. Skipper, he did nicely, read it. The target was Stevenson, but the kick was errant, and Skipper was awake to it.
And so he's one of the dependable players, Wade Skipper, and he gets it to another one and then another one. Sam Fleming and Michael Dillon.
And he's had a fantastic final series, Wade Skipper. He's given away height week in, week out, and he's a terrific battler.
Bent! Hand passes clear to Wolfenden, loves to break the lines. What can he do here? Tries to kick it to the advantage side of Galea, and he's beaten Bathy again in a one-on-one. fast in the third turn with a few big spikes, but he was out of position that time. And again, Dean Galea would judge the ball better in flight. And he took the mark, and he
so
has
strong though. He is just so strong over it. Watch him, he holds his space, he gets it at its highest point. He watches it all the way through. Just a fantastic footballer, this guy.
He's had 75 goals this season. And he can't add to that with that kick. The pressure getting to him. And surprisingly, none of the Cats getting to him. Pete, before we go to you, Phil, what about John Baird? What's he going to do around the stoppages this quarter?
Look, Peter touched on it just before about the rucks and the work of Skipper. What they're going to try to do with Baird, according to Gary Ayres, I heard him talking about this, is third man up, Darren. So at a lot of the stoppages, he'll try to jump over the top of the big blokes. Just a big challenge for him. They needed that goal. Galea's hands, absolutely astounding.
Burns to Burberry, and then Burns went again. Handball comes out in the Hall and Smith direction. He gets back into traffic, just keeps on going. Fleming nearly got him high. Then he gives a hot handball. Burberry back to Hall and Smith. Heard a voice, little hack off the ground. It bounces away from Valenti, but Port had the numbers there. Yet again, Woofenden down the back. Gives it through the middle of the ground. Dwyer turns his man and then straightens up on the right foot. Kicks out very wide. The intended target is Scipione. He moves onto his trusty left foot. Kicks it around behind McLean. Galea won't miss this one. And scores are level in the grand final. Fabulous kick from Josh Scipione. He did the defenders cold and Galea did the rest.
That is just a penetrating kick and a magnificent kick, and unbelievable kick to be honest.
Yeah.
That is incredible how he is able to just get the distance. You see him get out on his own here, and it's just terrific work by Scipione. Hasn't he been a real revelation? And that's a thumping left foot kick that just had the penetration to put it, over the top of three Geelong defenders.
Amazing. Gutsy. He made Galea run to that space as well. Galea was moving up the ground. Scipione knew better, and he put it there. Scores are level.
Let's start again.
Yes.
4-minute mark on the last quarter.
We haven't had one of these in a few years, have we? We've had games that have threatened to be as good as this, but none have reached the height of this VFL Grand Final 2012. The standalone defending premiers against the fully professional Cats, looking for their third flag in 10 years. And the Borough go forward, but Jed Buse arches the back, takes the game on, drives it as long as he possibly can up towards half forward. Ryan Gale has been here before on those occasions wearing the jumper of the Northern Bullants, and a couple of losses to the North Ballarat juggernaut that we saw for 3 years in succession triumph on this stage. But Port Melbourne own this stage at the moment for at least another half an hour. Remember, we'll go to extra time if there's a draw at the end of regulation. Do not miss a second of this action. Geelong are in attack. Hall and Smith's been one of their best. He bombs it long as he possibly can. A couple charge out to meet it. Noonan it was with the fist for the Borough. Bottom of the pack, they all dive on top of, I think it's Valenti down the bottom there. And he just does so much hard work, the little champ. And it's going to be bounced down 75-75.
There's such a fine line between ecstasy and heartbreak, and someone's about to find it out. Baird, the veteran, runs across the goal he's defending, and then on the left foot puts it out into wide open spaces. Scipione will be content with the boundary line after he just couldn't collect it. And that's what he got. Eardley was the man pressing him. Throw in on the dock side of the ground at right half forward as both teams throw their best punches. We've still got about 25 minutes to go. 25 energy-sapping minutes. Mark Johnston, taken down, holding the ball, call of Geelong fans. It comes back into him again, and so we'll have a bounce. It came out, then back in.
That's all right. They've been pretty consistent today, the umpires.
Been good, I think.
Yep. They've been really good. They haven't paid any of those 50-50 free kicks, which has been excellent from their behalf.
Skipper just with a fingertip to it. Baird, handball intercepted by his fellow skipper, his opposite skipper in Selwood. That's a mark. Kirson's got it.
Did he control it?
He's playing a high one.
Free.
So it's not a mark, it's a free kick, but it's the same result.
Well, that's fair enough because he... I see the arm over there. Yeah, that's fair enough, I suppose. A little bit unlucky there, Sandulins.
He was unlucky, but Kirsten may have been unlucky not to have been paid the mark, so...
Well, I didn't think he controlled it. So I thought it might have been paid the mark, and I would have disputed that. But
well, the free kick was definitely there, so this is a massive kick now. He's kicked 3 goals. We know he's a thumping kick. Is he an accurate kick? Well, the answer to that is a definitive no. He's missed a lot.
Galea at one end and Kirsten at the other. The leading goal scorers for both sides missing opportunities early in the last quarter. But this is the first time in the match that Port Melbourne have got the first goal in a term. That was a wonderful grab by Miles Pitt. Jason Williams wants it long. Pitt kicks to a 4-on-1. Galea needs to go. He did well enough. Port should have the numbers at ground level. Pinwell crashes in. Wrapped up Gillies, who's looking around for the truck that hit him. And he can't find the number 10, who looks spent. Toby Pinwell hasn't got as many possessions as he did last year, but boy, has his physical presence been important at times. Simpson, that's a free kick to Troy Selwood.
Just needs to temper the tackling, Bonner.
Advantage as there's still a bit going on off the ball. Fantastic hand pass from Mitch Brown. Releases Burberry. The Cats are back in front, but it's only by a point. 10-16 Geelong, 11-9 Port.
And the quick kick in comes out in the Hinkley direction, got it down to the ground. Dillon towed it to his own advantage. Is he going to be able to keep it in? Great chase from Burberry. 2 great chases from Burberry. He did so well to keep that ball alive. Valenti tackles Burns and brings him to the ground. And this grand final continues to go up in intensity. What about the effort from George Burberry there?
Fantastic. And Dillon was going up and down in the one spot. He looked spent out there.
Well,
there's some tired boys out there.
2 ways of looking at it, Reece, isn't there? The AFL aligned team, Geelong, with the probably superior physical conditioning. But then the other side of the coin is how tired they looked in the last 10 minutes against Werribee last week.
Yeah, and look, there's an intangible thing when it gets to this level, and it's a strong mind and big heart. And there's plenty of Port Melbourne players with a lot of that.
And the big body of Stevenson down to Stringer. Good use of the body by Mitch Brown. Little handball to Walker, to the VFL veteran in Gleeson. Tries to give a little cute kick to Kirsten. He gives it back. Now Gleeson can make himself a hero. Dom Gleeson, the former Werribee Tiger, is for the moment at least a celebrated Cat.
And well done, Dom Gleeson. Look, he hasn't had much impact on the game. He gave off a good pass to Kirsten early on, but what he does is all class, and he comes into his own. We're wondering who was going to stand up for this Geelong team. Maybe it is that man, Dom Gleeson, who is a veteran of the VFL.
Well done as well by Shane Kirsten. Showed some poise under pressure, the 19-year-old from South Fremantle. They all get around Gleeson, the Cats, by 7 points in the grand final.
Eventually, if someone keeps on pushing you over and tells you to get back up again, you're not going to get back up, Darren.
Oh, Port Melbourne, though, how strong are they?
They won't give up.
We will find out the answer to that in the next 20 minutes or so. Bentic got it to Valenti. Dillon's hand pass wasn't great. In fact, it was terrible, but Stringer was dispossessed. Then Dillon went back in to get it. And we're going to have another ball up Port Melbourne's side of the centre circles.
This is still frenetic football. This is unbelievable. It's, you know, right from the first bounce, they've gone hard and they're still going as hard now.
Neither side has relented. Bonadio was out bustled by Stevenson on that occasion. Selwood was too slow. Gee, I thought that was a poor decision. I thought the tackle might have slipped down and Selwood perhaps shrewdly went a bit weak at the knees. And Holden now has the footy. The Cats try and steady it. It's a poor kick. O'Farrell thumps it away, but Sheringham is first to recover. Gets it to Gleeson. He's been instrumental in this last quarter. Tries to pinpoint a target. Too many Borough players flying. Sandilands got one high.
I'm not sure he did. I reckon he went underneath it, and that's what Kirsten was saying to the umpire.
Well, a couple of times the umpires might have been conned in this last quarter. Let's hope they stay strong.
Dillon and Stringer in a one-on-one contest. Stringer wins. Walker got one high. It was sloppy. Wojcinski takes the advantage. Burberry comes out and takes the mark. And he can go back and get the gap out beyond 2 goals. And that would make it very difficult for Port Melbourne.
Well, there's a lot of tired boys out there. Gee, you'd love the ball in this man's hands. He is an opportunist. He's had a good game today. And that was a bit high, and Wojcinski was a player getting the ball in there. Terrific kick.
Only one man out there in the hoops has played every VFL game for Geelong this year. It is this man. What a responsibility. With his 14th disposal, 6 marks. The margin is currently 7 points. And the margin is going to stay at 7 points. Well, it's going to go out to 8 points. He's just squeezed it in.
And he's missed 2 great opportunities as well in this last quarter. That one, plus he was running into goal and missed around about 5 minutes ago. Now Scipione wants this from Valenti. He's on our broadcast side, half-back flank for the Borough. He's not going to get it. Valenti kicks it as long as he can. Miles Pitt and Skipper don't want to spoil each other. I reckon they did. Burns sliding in was Pitt. Great composure by Burns. Simpkins gone, I reckon. Umpire said play on. Shannon Burns, who's played in a couple of AFL flags, gets a high kick up towards half forward. It doesn't have much north to south direction. It was mostly flying west, and it's over the boundary line. And it'll be tossed in.
He's been good in this last quarter, Shannon Burns, and his experience is starting to show.
Cats by 8 points, not quite halfway through the last quarter. Burns, who was so brilliant in the last quarter of the 2009 AFL Grand Final, he led Raf Clark and Merry Dance. He could be just as instrumental here. Mark Johnston, whose father's played in AFL Grand Finals and been so brilliant for Carlton, the Dominator. Won a key possession there. Plemming looking for Burston. Tough contest, did well to keep his feet. They won't catch Wojcinski. He accelerates away, gets it towards Hall and Smith, who had to be strong and had to be clean and was superb.
He's had a great day. He's had a great year, George Hall and Smith. Gillies has a man on laterally and uses him. Sheringham, runners through the middle. He elects not to use them and goes longer instead in the Walker direction, backing back, almost the mark. Well, surely. And now, Gleeson just saying, calm it down a bit.
Gee, he's been good, Gleeson, the last quarter of games. And
leading by example, as he does. And as he has done in his VFL career. Kicks to the danger area. Jump, boys, jump. They all do. On the ground, Burberry flicks it back. Valenti's handball dangerous. Walker had his hands on it and his eyes lit up momentarily, and then it goes through for another behind. The margin is 9 points. We've been playing half of the last quarter. 14 and a half minutes gone in the grand final.
11-18 plays 11-9. Piercing effort from Valenti. Finds Gale, who loves to thump it. He's got O'Farrell in the middle of the Dockland Stadium. The kick is excellent. Baird was riding shotgun. He chooses to go a bit longer. Williams needs to be strong. Excellent stuff in front of a fellow youngster in Hughes. There's still less than 2 goals down the Borough, and that kick is on Galia's head. It's not a great effort. Doing pretty well was Bathy. His hand pass was terrible. Eardley, is that deliberate? Is that deliberate?
He thought about it.
Did he ever?
The umpire with a sense of theatre there. I think he just delayed the decision by a couple of seconds.
Razor Ray might have just come on in the last quarter to add the sense of drama. Simpson wins the tap down. Bentic fell to ground. We'll have another ball up. Umpire David Harris in control at the moment. Geelong have the lead, but they're not in control of the game. They lead by 9. Skipper and Simpson to do the ruck. Will there be a third man up? It's Burston to the back, running onto it. Kane, he was dispossessed by Sheringham. Perhaps tackled when he didn't have the footy. Scipione piles on. And gee, Peter Donegan, you really sense that this is a moment that we could look back upon if Port can get a goal here.
And by the look of the coaches, Matthew Knights and Gary Ayres, they're sensing the same thing. David Harris smacks it down. Massive collection of players. Chris Kane, his kick is touched, so it won't be a mark. Eardley being told to play on. Dwyer didn't hear the umpire. He didn't hear the umpire, and that is good composure by Eardley in the end to get it out to Hall and Smith. Geelong standing tall. Burns to Hall and Smith like a tightrope walker going along the line and then loading up a long ball. Brown trying to push back. Pitt trying to push back with him. Clever from Brown. Stringer goes to ground. Then he flicked up a little handball. Penwell came through like a wrecking ball. It bounces over the head of Orange Stevenson. Had to be a big bounce to do that. Simpkin loads it up inside the 50. Fleming takes a magnificent defensive mark. Phil Cleary, down to you. What's your read on what Port Melbourne's got left at the moment?
Not a lot, really, Peter. If they're going to win, it'll be with heart. There's no question about that. I think Johnny Baird's genuinely tired. I've watched him struggling through it. The Geelong bench looks better. They are sharper and got a slight advantage in the fitness, so it can only be heart that'll get this Port side home.
Bentic to O'Farrell to Scipione. He came up with a brilliant kick earlier in the corner, and that one is at the opposite end of the scale, cut off by Simpkin.
Yeah, they do look to be treading water a little bit, Port Melbourne, but they're loath to write them off. They're a big chance, Reece. You spotted Corrigan, so did Shannon Burns, and Mark Corrigan slams it through for a point.
Yeah, Corrigan come off the stringer, copped a knee in the back of the head and was struggling, and Corrigan had just come on the ground, was all on his own.
And Burns intercepted the kick, and he chips it inside 50. And Jordan Schroeder, who has been great all year, but he's been pretty ordinary with the ball in his hand today, has a chance.
Yeah, look, he's a good young talent, but he has turned the ball over a few times today, Schroeder, but that was just Burberry again, and he's been very lively forward. I think he may have just come on the ground as well, so the players coming off and on the ground are having an impact.
So the boy from St Bernard's who made his AFL debut this year. The Cats lead it by 10, and now they lead it by 11. Jordan Schroeder with 2 behinds.
They've missed, you know, they'll only have themselves to blame. If they get beat in this game, they've had their opportunities early in this final quarter.
Well, when Gleeson kicked the goal, they led by 7 points. Now they lead by 11 points.
1 goal, 5 in the term.
Brewer's long kick, no mucking about, straight up the guts. Bonadio couldn't mark it, out the back door. Wanting it just a bit more was Schroeder. Now it finishes up in the hands of Miles Pitt. Play on calls the umpire continuously as the ball is in someone's hands for a fleeting moment and then out again. Time on us approaching. We're 1 minute away. Geelong with the ascendancy at the moment. 1 more goal to the Cats and that might just about do it. Stevenson trying for that aim. Penwell to Fleming. Clearing kick. Scipione out in space. The ball comes off his hand, but he keeps it in play. Up the line he comes. Can they raise a gallop? Burst it in the front spot. Good hands. Wheels and deals. Looks inside 50. Bathy has been done a couple of times by Galea, but that time the kick not to Dean Galea's advantage, and Bathy was away to it and came up with a really critical defensive mark.
And he's got a man on the outer side wing all by himself. It's Wojcinski. Well done by Tom Gillies. Did enough to keep Burston out of the contest. And he's rewarded with a possession. Gleeson didn't want to give it to him. Fleming's the third man here. The spare man rather. He was spoilt in his attempt to mark. Sanderland under pressure. Got the handball out. Look at the Cats. They're swarming around this footy. They want it so much. Jordan Schroeder has Stevenson all on his own. And Oren Stevenson has kicked a goal from this exact spot in the second quarter. And the money's got to be on the big fella.
Who else could it be?
And this is where the fitness starts to tell, and you'll see the numbers of Geelong players able to get over to contests. And there's some tired Port boys out there, and Stevenson just lurking around that centre-half forward position. And we've said it before, he is a very good shot for goal.
Port Melbourne haven't scored since the 3-minute mark of this quarter. In that time, Geelong have kicked 1 goal, 5. And that's how they've arrived at this 11-point lead. Can the VFL champ make it a 17-point lead? He can't. It's an even 2 goals. Remember, extra time if it's a tie. If Port can get off the mat and kick 2.
Brewer almost wanted to go on, and there were 2 footballs on the field. So this time, he goes short, but they're going to have to do it quickly. There's still enough time left on the clock at 21 minutes, but the next goal has to come to give them a glimmer. Dillon at right half back. Now he's told to play on. Handball to Fleming. Fleming to Brewer. He's on his wrong side. So on the right foot, what can he do with it? Kicks it up to the wing. Good contest. Bentic, little handball. Now through the middle of the ground. Sandilands needs to go. He gets the handball only just in time. Scipione. He dives on top of the football. Umpire said no prior for him. So Tristan Burgess will come in and bounce it. Matthew Knights and the coaching staff, including Max Rook, knowing that they're hanging on to the lead, but at the moment it's a tenuous one. They could have put it away. They've had so many opportunities. Schroeder tries to go busting through the middle. Nothing doing, and this will suit Geelong nicely. 12 points the gap, 22 minutes gone, and just the 2 goals. So despite the fact we've had a few stoppages and we've had a few behinds, you wouldn't think it'd be a long quarter. Stevenson to Gleeson. Big tackle by Fleming is high. They want to be careful they don't give 50 away here. Bentic saying to the umpire, give us a go.
No, it's a high tackle. And it's just the nature of a big man tackling a small man late in the game. Copped him a little bit high. That's fair enough.
He's a good kick, Mark Corrigan. He had an opportunity against Port Melbourne going back in the qualifying final. This is a much more important kick, it goes without saying. From 52 metres, he loads it up and possibly gives Geelong the premiership in 2012. The Cat fans go wild. Mark Corrigan stretches the gap out to 18 at the 23-minute mark. That is going to make it devilishly tough for Port Melbourne.
Yeah, look, that's a terrific kick, but a little bit unlucky. And you really feel for Sam Fleming in that situation. There's natural instinct, and he did duck a little bit into it, but that's the way they roll these days. And you'll see players, when they've got pressure from behind, they'll fall in front, and when they got pressure from the front, they'll lower the knees.
Darren, I remember saying at the 20-minute mark last week that Geelong was into the grand final, and they staggered into the grand final. It seems as though the flag is theirs, but not just yet.
Well, it's absolutely right, Pete. We know late last week, Werribee, they kicked 4 goals in the last 10 minutes of that match to almost pinch it from the Cats. What can Port Melbourne do? Can they muster one last charge, the defending premiers? They've been so brave, and yet they've conceded the last 8 scoring shots of the match. That Geelong have been so poor with their conversion is the only reason they're still alive, as another free kick is given for high contact. And it's a Selwood. How poetic in the season of AFL, VFL football that would be the case. Not sure about Simpson's decision to play on there, but Burns is smart enough to get out of it. Sheringham's kick is excellent. And now Hogan can make himself a hero.
Yeah, you would think the game is just about shot. They needed to win that centre bounce, Port Melbourne, and gee, the Selwoods, they are just terrific at contested footy, and on a few occasions in this quarter, Troy Selwood's just put his body on the line, his nose over the ball and gone hard at it, and he doesn't know any different.
The boy from Warrnambool has had all sorts of problems in his career, and he's one of the only survivors from their last flag. He sets it up to the top of the square. Burberry tackled. Simpkin kicked the first goal of the game.
It's a handy one, though.
Yes, out to 19 points. He may yet kick the last goal of the game, but it wasn't to be then.
Well, you'd think it would take a minor miracle now for Port Melbourne. They're going to have to score 4 times to possibly win or level it. Burston knows the clock's against him. Kick goes off the side of the boot, going back with courage. McLean did not take his eyes off the footy, and it resulted in Bathy coming up with it. Well done by McLean. Now Selwood, the captain, to Erdley. His handball was errant. Woofenden's got it for Port, but look at the Geelong numbers swarming in there. 3 or 4 of them surrounding the man with the ball. Paul and Smith, with such a great year, just goes straight for the boundary line, and he's disguised it well enough.
I think he was actually looking for Troy Selwood, who was looking for the bench and taking a spell, and a well-deserved one for him.
Well, maybe he was looking for Matty Knights because he's down on the boundary line now in these frantic last minutes. Simpson has been so good today from the word go. Gleeson has battled his heart out, comes out to Hogan, tumbles the ball inside the 50. Burberry's been magnificent. Look at the chase, he's got Burns. He'll do it himself. George is the king, and Geelong are home. What a day for the boy from Hobart, George Burberry. He's kicked his second. He could have used Shannon Burns, but had the confidence to do it all himself, and he's put the final nail in the coffin.
Yes, he has, and he's had a terrific game himself. As you mentioned, the only player, the Geelong VFL player to play every game this year, and he's certainly had his stamp on the game. They'll be very happy. Look, it's been a terrific effort, and full credit to Port Melbourne too. I mean, it's only been the last 10 minutes they've really started to tire a bit and look weary and look like a semi-professional team playing a professional team. You've got to remember that most of these Geelong boys are all professional athletes.
And they come out of the middle once more. It was Simpkin who drove it long. It's Burberry against three Port Melbourne players crashing through.
That shows a couple of things. That Paul going in there, 3 against 1 there, and the Port Melbourne boys know they've lost the game, but they're also very weary as well. They've tried their heart out and they've given their all.
Phil, how's the mood downstairs?
Well, look, it's remarkable, Darren. You've got both coaches here. They're only 10 metres or 15 metres apart, and the pressure is phenomenal. Matty Knights knows he's got the premiership. He's excited, grabbing players with that last goal. You see the forlorn look of Gary Ayres. It's sort of sad in a sense that games end up like that, isn't it? But one side has to win, and the Cats have been brilliant.
And there's just been an embrace between Gary Ayres and Matthew Knights. They've conceded. You don't often see that, but they know that the premiership is going to go down to Cardinia Park, and so does Matthew Knights. He's done a lot in his football career, and this will be ranking right up there with the very best achievements. Brewers kick. Port Melbourne are out here, but it doesn't make any difference because the clock is going to beat them. O'Farrell battered and bruised early on. Turnover. Last game for David Wojcinski. He had about 8 to choose from inside 50 and decided to take the most obvious option inside the 50. Well done to David Wojcinski. He's going to bow out a winner, and Jordan Schroeder can put the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake.
Yeah, and it's been a terrific effort by these young Geelong boys. They have played with flair, they've taken risks, and that's what you need to do to win flags and become premiership players.
To increase the celebrations, Jordan Schroeder, who's been such an impressive young player this season at both levels, and he misses, as has been the case with Geelong so often. They could have put it away earlier in this last quarter. 13-24, 102. As it turns out, 37 scoring shots to 20. And so we're going to come up with the right winner. And here's a man who's going to collect another premiership medallion in the Big O. He goes inside the 50, and a chance for another one of the veterans to celebrate with a late moment. The Cats add to their legend. The flags of 2002, 2007, now joined in 2012. Heartbreak for Gary Ayres in Port Melbourne, but Shannon Burns.
I'd love to see him kick it. He's had a magnificent last quarter, been terrific, and full credit to Matty Knights. He has been brave.
Can he put the icing on the cake? He does. Shannon Burns gives them more reason to celebrate, and as a unit they come together because the Cats are premiers in the VFL in 2012. So the final score, it was 38 scoring shots to 20, and the Cats just rolling home with their superior fitness and in some cases superior skills in the final quarter. The last 4 goals of the game after Dean Galea levelled the scores at the start of the last quarter. Gleeson, Corrigan, Burberry and Burns contribute to the Cats' victory. So the congratulations going on from everyone. In contrast, captain and coach feel that empty feeling in the pit of the stomach that only those who have played in a losing grand final can describe. Let's get down to Phil Cleary down at ground level.
Yeah, I've got George. I better get that right, that Haaland Smith. I never want to mess up those hyphens. George, you're a 19-year-old boy coming into state. What a remarkable performance by you. One of the best players and a great game of football, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate, credit to Port Melbourne. They've been the benchmark for the last couple of years, and for our boys to come out and fight the way we did, it was a fantastic effort, and it's a great way, a fitting send-off for a champion of the club, someone like David Wojcinski, who's invested so much time into the young boys to improve, so it's a credit to the football club.
And the way this game just ebbed and flowed in fierce tackling, fierce contested ball, and then finally you cracked them.
Yeah, I don't think the supporters could have asked for a better spectacle. It was a fantastic game. Played them twice before, and both games have been really contested and really hard games. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great battles again in the future between Port Melbourne and Geelong. And fortunately, we go over the line today, and it's a great effort by all the boys. It's a really good team effort.
The biggest moment in your football life to date?
Yeah, for sure. It's just reward for the whole team. There's been a lot of hard work. Starting in October, and to get over the line today is fantastic.
Your coach was excited.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable for the young boys, Knightsy, from day dot when he came into the club. He's really approachable. He's invested a lot of time with the young boys, and for him to get a premiership in his first season is fantastic.
Very well spoken, George. Great game of football. All the best to you.
No, thank you. Cheers.
What an eloquent young man, and what a very good footballer he is too. We talked about the fact that not only has he had a great game in the grand final, but he's had a great season. 5th in the Liston Trophy. George Haaland Smith has a career to look forward to. And in that career, he might have just started the first step of a bond that may not be broken. We talked about what happened in 2002 for Geelong, and there's a lot to like about the youngsters coming up through the ranks in the 2012 version of the Cats.
Yeah, look, we mentioned before the game, they've got a terrific young group of talented young kids. And look, I know Geelong bowed out of the finals, but the core group of players that they've got, they've got a lot of quality right down through their list.
Well, we talked about David Wojcinski and the fact that he has tasted the air at the top of the mountain. He bows out a winner today. His last game for Geelong. Let's get down to him with Phil Cleary.
David, 3 premierships on the big ground, the MCG, but here you come to the Docklands. Not the biggest crowd in the world, but a phenomenal game of football.
Yeah, it was, mate. It definitely was. The crowd were great. I mean, to see so many people come out to a VFL game is unbelievable, because it's a really good standard of football, and we're just so happy to have won today, mate, because our boys just tried their guts out today, and we eventually got over the top of them.
Look, I was down at ground level watching it. At the stoppages, the contested ball, the collected ball, phenomenal pressure.
Yeah, Port Melbourne were super in the first half. They nutted us in close all for the first half, and we just knew we'd go in at half time, and we knew if we come back out and fix that area up, we'd get over the top of them.
And the final game for you, you've retired after this illustrious career, more than 200 games. What a lovely way to send you off.
That's the best way to be sent off, mate. It was a premiership. It's unreal.
And did you think you could break them like you did at the finish?
Yeah, we knew if we stuck to our guns and we won the contested ball and we stopped their players that used to suck out the back, well, we'd get over the top of them, and that's exactly what happened that second half. And
look, on behalf of all football supporters, David, we wish you all the best in the rest of your life. Great career, well done.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, mate.
Congratulations to David Wojcinski, and the siren indicates that the crowd can come on, so it'll create a great atmosphere around the presentation, and there will be a couple of things that he won't forget about today, David Wojcinski. The most important thing is that he'll get a premiership medallion, but also that mark he took in the second quarter. He's taken some good marks in his career. That was right up with the best of them.
It certainly was, and that'll go into Mark of the Year contender for the VFL for this year. It was probably the best we've seen, and he was a great contributor too today, and his leadership out there was well-deserved grand final win for him. It'd be hard for guys like him. He's played in the AFL premierships. To come back to this level and to get out there with young guys, and you can see that the smiles on their faces, and they're a very happy lot.
Well, we said that Matty Knights has been in football for a long time. I wonder where this ranks up with his achievements. He's chatting now with Phil Cleary.
We're just saying, Peter, about what Peter was saying in the box, where it ranks in your achievements. What a remarkable scene at the end, Matty. You're on one side. He's only 15 metres away. He comes over to congratulate you before the siren. It's a beautiful thing, football, isn't it?
A good show of humility from Gary and Crackers, and obviously to come and congratulate when they knew the game was gone. And yeah, it's great to achieve something with a group of players that have been sold on playing the right way all year, and I've had amazing support from match committee and coaching staff, and it's a united effort that gets it done.
Look, people like myself who follow the game for a long time, we love it because you've shown the doubters it's about winning games at premierships as well, isn't it?
So it's about, it's winning at the same time, developing footballers, and we've been able to establish that all year. And we're the second-ranked defensive team in the comp, and we've kept Port to 11 goals today, and fundamentally that's what's won us the game, and we've ended up with 38 shots ourselves. So I couldn't be more pleased with the defensive elements as well as the attack.
Just on the technical nature of the game, people will watch in and see it's VFL, it's the second tier, but the contested ball, first half in particular, phenomenal, wasn't it?
When you got Penwell and Baird and Valenti coming at you, and Hall and Smith and Schroeder coming the other way, it's going to be chaos in there. And they probably got their way a bit in the first quarter, and then I think we held sway in the stoppages in the second half, so it was great.
I'm getting the wind up. We could talk forever, but another time, well done, Matty. Great performance.
Thanks, Phil Tuck.
And he's about to receive his premiership medallion and also to get one hand on the cup with his captain, Troy Selwood. Let's go down for the presentation after the 2012 VFL Grand Final to our Master of Ceremonies, Darren Boyd.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a finale to the 2012 VFL season that the Geelong Cats and the Port Melbourne Football Club have put on today. Could you please applaud the efforts of both the Geelong Cats and the Port Melbourne Football Club, not just for today, but for this epic grand final. Before we move into the formal part of the presentation ceremony, I would like to invite the captain of the Port Melbourne Football Club, John Baird, to the microphone to say a few words.
Thank you. Congratulations to Geelong. Fantastic year, great team, hugely talented, and many things to come. All the supporters who came out here, thanks very much. The Port supporters, thank you. Sorry we couldn't do it for you today. And to our boys, such a courageous bunch of blokes. Keep your heads high because we didn't let anyone down today, and we'll be back again next year. Thank you.
The third grand final in 5 years for this fantastic football club. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it again for the Port Melbourne Football Club. As John said, they did not let anybody down today. There were heroic performances from everybody, and we're about to applaud all of those in the presentation ceremony. And behind me, we've got Peter Jackson and Nick Jackson from Peter Jackson, the sponsors of the Peter Jackson VFL. And the first duty of the presentation party is to award the medal for the Norm Goss to the Norm Goss medalist, who is the player who is adjudged best afield in this 2012 VFL Grand Final. And the winner of the Norm Goss medal for season 2012 from the Geelong Football Club, George Hall Smith.
Port Melbourne, you guys have been the benchmark for the last couple of years. It's a fantastic game, and no doubt there'll be numerous more to come. To our boys, it was a great season and a great finish to the year, so well done.
Congratulations to George Hall Smith. Now we'll of course be awarding the medallions to the players from each of the players in the Geelong Premiership side, and Peter Jackson will be presenting those medallions, starting with number 1. Mitch Brown. Number 15, Jordan Schroeder. Number 16, Dawson Simpson. Number 17, Shannon Burns. Number 23, the fourth time he's been on this dais, Oren Stevenson. Number 24, Jed Hughes. Number 25 is Tom Gillies. Number 33, the Norm Goss medalist, George Holland-Smith. Part of a premiership team in 2007 in the VFL and again today. Number 34, Simon Hogan. Number 37, Cam Erdley. .38 is Jackson Sheringham. Number 39, Shane Kirsten. Took one of the marks of the season in the second quarter. Let's hear it for retiring champ David Wojcinski. Number 41, Jesse Stringer. Number 42, Josh Walker. Kicking the sealer today, number 43, George Burberry. Number 46, Jonathan Simpkin. Number 47, Ryan Bathy. The veteran, number 50, he's been a star in this competition for a long time, Dominic Gleeson. Number 54, Andrew McLean. .57 is Mark Corrigan. Number 67, Darcy Holden. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the captain of the Geelong Cats, number 51, Troy Selwood. And of course, I'd also now like to invite the coach of the Geelong Cats VFL side, Matthew Knights. Troy, Matthew, anything you'd like to say?
First of all, to John and Gary, thank you for the year. We've thoroughly enjoyed our 3 games playing against you, and especially today. We look forward to playing you guys here next year, so thank you very much. I want to thank the VFL and the VFL sponsors. I won't name them because I'll forget them, but thanks for putting on such a great competition. It keeps getting better, and looking forward to playing again next year. To the Bendigo Bank who look after us here in the VFL program, we can't thank you enough. So to Pat and Debbie and all the team at Bendigo Bank, thank you very much. To my coach and Maxie Rook and Paul Hood, Guys, thanks very much for the year. You've taught us to play the Geelong way, and we knew that playing the Geelong way stands up on days like today. So thanks to our coaches, first of all, and last of all, to my teammates who were just bulletproof today in that last quarter. So it's such an honour to lead you guys, and I'm looking forward to celebrating over the next couple of days. Thank you.
Firstly, Port Melbourne, Gary and the team and John have done a great job, obviously, to get back-to-back grand finals. Last year was amazing for them, so thanks for the game. It's been really tight all year. Thanks, Gary, for the humility shown in the end to come over and congratulate in those last couple of minutes. Great shine of class. I'd like to thank everyone involved with the Geelong Football Club. It's been a team effort in regards to match committee, players, staff, VFL players. There's a lot of VFL listed players that weren't in the team today that contribute so much. To all the Geelong supporters that turned out today and give this team a bit of a G up, we really appreciated you coming out. To Bendigo Bank and Ford for their wonderful support. So couldn't be prouder of this team. They fight hard all the way to the end, and I'm just lucky, very fortunate to be coaching a great group of people. So thank you.
Congratulations, of course, to Matthew, to Troy and all of the Geelong Football Club for this performance. And, of course, there's really just one more thing to be done. And we have Nick Jackson from Peter Jackson, Melbourne, the sponsors of the VFL, here to present the 2012 Premiership Cup to the Geelong Cats.
So all 23 players share in the glory along with their coach Matthew Knights, who interestingly didn't want that medal hung around his neck.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is there. He's got it in his hand, but a terrific effort by him today to coach a terrific group of young players, and there's a lot to like about a few of these kids, and they're going to go a long way in their footy careers.
And he spoke about the respect that Gary Ayres showed him. Of course, they spent time together at Essendon in 2007, so there is a bond between the two coaches. Rivals they were today, but great respect shown by what Gary Ayres did to go over and congratulate Matthew Knights while the game was still in progress.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously they know how many minutes are left on the clock. He would have known that there wasn't much time left and it was out of their reach. And yeah, look, Gary Ayres, he doesn't like losing. I mean, he'll take it pretty hard, but he should still be proud of his boys. They a semi-professional team. It's very hard when you're coming up against a team that these guys, they're professional athletes these days. Their job is going and playing football and training hard.
And what they're going to do is sing the song out on the ground here. So we might see if we can have a listen in as the coaches and a few of the other people vitally concerned with the running of this football club celebrate at the Docklands.
We are Geelong, the greatest team of all. We are Geelong, we're always on the ball. We play the game as it should be played. Play at home or far away. Our man is flying high from dawn to dawn. Down at Cardinia Park.
It is a very full trophy cabinet down at Cardinia Park, but I'm sure they'll be able to find room for that cup.
I'm sure they will, and look, it bodes well. I mean, we spoke earlier on about 10 years ago, the players that were in there, Bartel, Ablett and all these guys who come through, and 5 years ago with Hawkins and Lonergan and these guys. We wonder who is going to be out of this group, who's going to be the future for Geelong, and there's some wonderful talent in there.
And of course, that's going to be a stepping stone for those young men. For one man in particular today, it's an achievement in itself. Dom Gleeson, a veteran of this competition, is now with Phil.
Yeah, Dom, you just follow Podge down to Geelong and you get the medal around your neck. It's just the way to travel, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just, I don't think I planned it that way, mate, but, it's a credit to our group and coaches and what we've achieved this year. It's amazing. It's, I won't sing in for a long time, I don't think.
It was an astounding game of football. I've seen a lot of football, VFA, VFL. This was surely one of the best grand finals. Stoppages, skill, high marking, everything.
Yeah, look, I haven't watched too many, to be honest. I made a pact to myself that I wouldn't watch one until I'm in one, and so I might watch this one back. But, no, it felt amazing to be in it. And credit to Port Melbourne, great quality club, and as you know, no, it's great to beat them for sure.
Well, that'd be something you'd understand, Dom, too, coming from that VFL standalone background. You know what it's like for a team to have to do what they've done and come up against you.
That's right. It's the hoops are quite intimidating, and we intimidated Port Melbourne today, especially late in the game. And as I said before, couldn't be proud of such a young group. It's been great to be a part of.
And you cracked them in the end, didn't you? You just did crack them halfway through the last quarter.
I think we might have just broken them towards the end, yeah. You can see the heads drop, and some of those goals that we got late just put the nail in the coffin, which is quite enjoyable for the last 2 minutes of the game.
Beautiful career and a premiership. Well, it isn't finished, but a beautiful career to date and a premiership. Great work, Dom.
Thanks very much, Phil. Thank you.
He's been a good man for this competition, Dom Gleeson. I think Phil described it perfectly there. They cracked them. We said in the call, if you keep on pushing someone over and waiting for them to get up, they'll keep on trying to get up, but eventually you'll wear them down. And that was evidence, Reece, by the fact that Dean Galea kicked Port Melbourne's goal at the 3-minute mark of the last quarter. That was the only score for Port Melbourne in the last quarter, and Geelong had 13 scoring shots.
Yeah, look, they tried hard. They battled with will, but at the end of the day, it was just Geelong were just too fit, too strong and too good.
We talked about plenty of silverware. The Big O's got plenty of medals in the VFL competition. He's got another one, and he's with Darren Boyd.
Well, I've got the Big O. And can I say the little P? I'm not sure, but young Patrick's here with me as well. And I might just reach across the young bloke here first up. But how does this compare to the 3 flags you've won at North Ballarat? It must be a different feeling.
It's an amazing feeling. I said if I was in this situation, 12 months ago, I wouldn't have thought it would happen. So it's an amazing feeling. It's really it's been great to be involved with this club, and really enjoyed the way the young guys have taken it on. And obviously, George Hall-Smith got the rewards today. And George Burberry and all those young fellas have been terrific all year. So that's hats off to them. They've made it pretty easy to get out and have a crack every week.
When you look back on 2012 as a period in your life, and obviously late last year having been drafted, what's going to stand out for you the most?
Probably, I suppose, just the chance, getting the opportunity to play full-time footy, and then to get the results now. And I think my personal growth's been great, my development's been excellent, but to see the way the young guys have come on this year is probably, you spend day in, day out with them, so it's been really enjoyable.
You've got to be a little bit personal here. We can say, what's been the biggest thing for you? Emotionally, perhaps the impact on your family, or the things that you've been challenging yourself that you've been finally able to achieve?
I think there's the improvement. I've really enjoyed improving, and just the ability to put yourself into full-time footy. It's been amazing, so I've really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Well, congratulations. We get a word with Patrick here quickly. Patrick, you comfortable in this Geelong jumper with your dad?
Yeah.
You must be proud of it.
Yeah, very.
Congratulations, Oren. Well done, Patrick. Well done. Enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
To Phil Cleary now with Frank Costa.
Indeed, Frank Costa. We used to think of you as the mayor of Geelong. You were the coach virtually, the chairman of selectors. Now you got another flag. Not as president this time round, Frank. Great to see you.
Wonderful to be here, Phil, and it doesn't matter what you are in Geelong. If the team keeps coming up like they're doing, we're all very proud boys.
You've seen a lot of great football. You saw those AFL premierships, at the MCG. This was a stunning game of footy, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. Had they kicked straight, they'd have had it by half-time. 38 scoring shots to 20. But they say bad kicking is not good football, and it's not. But they just kept going and going. And I think they ran them off their legs in the last quarter.
Oh, you're dead right, Frank. And we were just saying to Matty Knights, Gary Ayres walked over to him before the end of the game. We footy people kind of understand that, the humility and the camaraderie you build.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. And I've got to say that young Matthew Knights has fitted into our club perfectly. He's got the right quality, the right values, and the culture of our club is being added to by the fact that we've got him there. He's a great trainer of young men, Phil.
Well, he certainly is. So, Frank, are you claiming him as your recruit?
No, I can't claim him. That's the football department. I tell you what, our footy department has never looked back since the end of 2006 when we got Neil Barn to come down and head it up with Steve Hodgkin's support.
Well, we had a yard to him the other day. Neil's always a good talker, and Wojcinski taking that mark over here. Well, was that special for his last game at Geelong? Phenomenal?
Oh, it was sensational. Sensational. I'm not dead sure. He's got the 3 premierships AFL, but I think he's now got 2 AFL. I think he won one of the early AFLs when he was a young boy coming through. So that'll be 5 premierships if I'm right. That's not a bad effort.
Good on you, Frank. And I see all these people gather around for you. You're the master, aren't you? They genuinely love you. Well done.
They're all great people.
Well done, Frank.
Good on you.
And nicely done by Phil Cleary. Enjoy the moment, Frank. And another architect of the great Geelong Football Club is down there as well, Brian Cook, who's done a magnificent job, and I don't think you can possibly talk highly enough about what Frank Costa and Brian Cook did to really turn this football club around.
They're just a strong club right through, and he mentioned Neil Baum, who's just been terrific down there, and the reports out of the place that they're not going to bottom out. They're not like clubs who get up there and then all of a sudden bottom out. They've got talented young kids who want to win, they want to get out, they want to play. Look, that was a magnificent game of football today, which just shows that VFL football is very, very good, and it's in a very healthy state at the moment.
And the bond that exists between those young men is something that's going to go on for a long time, because if you talk to the likes of Jimmy Bartell and Gary Ablett and Steve Johnson and Josh Hunt and all those boys who were involved in that 2002 premiership, they will tell you that was a really important part of their football development, to win that early flag and to get the taste for it.
It doesn't matter what level you're at, and there's been a lot of grand finals over the weekend. A lot of hard work's gone into every single one of them, and these boys, how many training sessions, how many times out in the cold and the wet, and it's all paid off today for them.
Well, let's relive some of the moments from that final quarter. It looked as though it was going to be an epic final quarter when Josh Scipione delivered one of the best kicks we've seen all season. Look at that, between three Geelong defenders, picked out Dean Galea. At the 3-minute mark, the scores were level, but after that point, it was simply one-way traffic in favour of the Cats.
Yeah, well, the ball hardly went down the forward line. Galea and Burston were down there waiting, but the ball just couldn't get past the centre line, and Geelong controlled it, and their superior fitness, speed, and when you look at the screen and you look at the numbers of Geelong Guernseys, you just saw time and time again they had the fitness to be able to get to contest after contest, and they're terrific. You look here and a lot of very tired Port Melbourne boys, but they gave it their all, and full credit to them.
And Shannon Burns was able to just put an exclamation mark on it with that goal after the siren after 30 minutes to take the final margin out to 33 points, and the dejection was written all over the faces of the Port Melbourne players who 12 months ago were the complete opposite to what we're seeing from Billy Burston and the likes of his teammates. But well done to the Cats, deserving winners, 13 scoring shots to 1 in the last quarter, 13 entries inside 50-4 in the final quarter. There are the spoils of victory, and how many of those young men are we going to go on forging a career at AFL football? The cup has made its way into the rooms, as to of the players. There's a few cold ones down there, and I think they might be the first of many tonight, and they deserve them after a long, hard season.
Yeah, it certainly has, and look, good on them. I mean, they don't have to worry about the warm downs or anything else anymore. The stretching down, just enjoy yourself and look forward to a bit of a break, and then they're back into training not too long down the track. So full credit to them though. They're a good young bunch of players, and if you're a Geelong supporter out there, you'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you? Because the depth there is sensational.
If you look in the paper tomorrow and you'll see 38 scoring shots to 20, you see a 33-point margin, you'll say that was pretty comfortable, but it wasn't until the last quarter. Port Melbourne gave it their all, only as you'd expect from a Port Melbourne team. Sam Plemming, we've mentioned his importance. He had a really good day today. And George Hall-and-Smith has walked away with the Norm Goss medal. The other George wasn't bad either, Burberry. He had a terrific day.
Yeah, and his last quarter was sensational with a couple of goals and put the icing on the cake. But look, they were terrific. And George Hall-and-Smith, I like the hyphens too. They go all right.
Yeah, they do go all right, the hyphens, as you very well know. Well, here's a man who doesn't have a hyphenated name, but he does have a very good family, a very good footballing family. The captain of Geelong, Troy Selwood, is down in the rooms with Darren Port.
Thanks, PD. Troy and I just chatting about the game. And Troy, I get the sense that when you actually get a chance to have a relax and maybe have a beer and the like, you're going to enjoy watching the replay of that game.
Yeah, it's going to be on. It's going to be on when we get home to Cardinia Park tonight, and we're going to be on for the next couple of days, especially that last quarter. We fought so hard for the first three quarters, but I think we finally started to get rewarded for all our tough work inside and gave it to our runners, who been able to just get one-on-one inside 50, and that's what won us the game.
It was just wonderful to watch because the intensity was so strong during the first three quarters, and then it was like the damn wall was about to burst in that last quarter. What was the key for you?
Yeah, I just think winning it inside. Like, we just had Jordan Schroeder was just bullying his way through the stoppages. Hall-and-Smith did such a fantastic job on Baird. We got first use from our ruckman, so I think inside we won it, and we were just able to win the contest, get it forward, win the contest, get it forward. So
All right, Troy, we've got to wrap it up because Gary Ayres is waiting for us in the other rooms. But just quickly, Ablett, Chapman, Kelly, Johnson, Varco, Hawkins, these are some of the great names that have been through these Geelong Premiership VFL sides. It must be great to be part of that as well. And who's the next one?
Well, it's hard to say because I've got about 5 or 6 I could say, but I'm biased. I reckon they're all going to be hopefully have 10-year careers at Geelong Footy Club.
Congratulations, Troy. Enjoy the celebrations. And now to Phil with Gary Ayres.
Gary, I've just come in. You've got all your players here. You're talking to them. I know what you're going through. I've lost them too. It hurts you. It hurts, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely does, Phil. You take your mind back to 12 months ago and the two feelings are extreme, as we know. But look, what I said to the players was that they should be very proud of what they've done. 12 months on, they've made another grand final after the year that we had last year. And today we just got beaten by an absolute better side. But, for 3.5 quarters, everyone would have seen what they were trying to do. And it wasn't easy. And we just kept on competing. So I said to them, yes, we're very, very disappointed we didn't win. But myself as head coach, I'm extremely proud of what they did.
We were taken by the fact that you went over to Matty Knights. He was at Essendon with you. He'd got a job that maybe you could have got. But you went and congratulated him. That was a big moment. It has been talked about, but everyone notices that.
Yeah, well, look, as you know, mate, in this business, we always want to be a winner. But you've also got to show the respect that coaches like Matty and that deserve. And, of course, he coached wonderfully well this year. He's obviously had a kick in the tail because of what happened at Essendon, but he's got Geelong to a premiership flag. So you can't ask really of a coach to do anything more.
I thought I just could feel the game just unravelling a little bit. Your midfield did so much work, just tiring. You need another big man. Your ruckman tried hard, but just couldn't have the energy.
Oh, you're right, mate. Look, those guys are, 204, 205 centimetres or something? So we can't ask Wade Skipper and Adrian Bonadeo to physically go against those guys. I'm very proud of what they did, but you're right, and the game was lost in the stoppages and they had better systems going into their forward line.
We've enjoyed your work. We've enjoyed your team. It's a big effort to be standalone. It was a big grand final. It was a great game of footy. Bad luck. Well done.
Well, thanks, Phil. Thanks for the support for you and also to ABC. Thank you.
Well done to Gary Ayres, and thank you to everything that he's done and the Port Melbourne Football Club have done throughout the year. He's been terrific for this competition.
Oh, he is. He's a great coach, and full stop. He's just a great coach, and why I say he's a great coach, he gets the best out of men, and that's what you got to do as a coach. And his players would follow him anywhere, and they just weren't good enough today. They were beaten by a professional outfit, and even though they had the youth on their side, if the game was played at Port Melbourne, I'd pick Port Melbourne, put it that way.
And wasn't it fitting that we should have one of the best games of the year in the grand final? And there is proof that Geelong played better than anyone. The celebrations are about to begin. Thanks to all the people behind the scenes. Jacob Walker, our producer. Wayne Giles has been in the producer's chair. Peter Stapp, our director. Lila Wilson, who's in charge of everything. And our executive producer, Kirsty Bradmore, and our statistician, Paul Field. And thanks to you, my friend. You've done a great job.
No, thank you too. It's been another great year of VFL football, and look forward to what can happen next year. It's getting better every year.
Hope you enjoyed the grand final. Congratulations to Geelong, the champions, and hopefully we'll see you for more VFL in 2013.